Welcome everyone to the Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight. Hope everyone's having a good Easter Sunday. All right, joined today I have Truman, legendary Mario World speedrunner. How's it going?
Good man. Thanks for having me. Legendary's a little nice, but I know. I guess off to a good start.
Yeah, I just gotta make the guest feel good at the start.
Good. I
Can't make
like
him
it. I
feel bad,
appreciate it.
so yeah. So, what got you into it? You've been speedrunning for a while now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I started in like August 2013, and that was
Jeez.
after AGDQ 2013 just kind of came up. I think I ran into some YouTube videos of like I think it was Narcissus Wind Waker run. I saw Siglemix Mario 64 run, just like the all-time classic ones, and just thought, okay, I got nothing to do. I've got just a ton of old games that I actually like a lot, and I'm just gonna go with Super Mario World. That's my favorite. And actually, at that same GDQ, Dram 55 did a run, and I thought that was super cool. So I was like, okay, there's maybe something to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, that's obviously been almost 10 years at this point. I was, I guess, 15 at the time when I started, and just it's always been great since then. Community was really good, and that's kind of just what kept me around.
Yeah. So, wow, you started at 15.
Yeah, yeah. I was my sophomore year of high school, and I've been on and off since then. But for the better part of the last 10 years, I've been streaming every now and then.
Yeah, I started right after high school, but I see so many people now like start super early.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like even I don't know, 5 years ago, like towards the beginning when I was in college, I'd say the average age was probably way down. I mean, knew people who started at 13. I knew way more people that started at like 15 than when I started. When I started, it was like me and like a bunch of boomers doing the weekly race because Super Mario World's a pretty old game. And I had a couple other friends who were doing it, and then shortly after, I got a few other people like Bram started, and he's around my age, and a few other people. But at the beginning, yeah, it was really a lot of people who I don't know played the game growing up, and now it's really cool to see it's just so accessible to so many people.
So, what got you into Mario World then?
Actually, I had the GBA port when I was like 5 years old, and just for whatever reason, it was my favorite game. Loved the cape. I'd always play it on family trips and whatnot on the Game Boy. And just from there, I mean, I actually remember I was going over to a friend's house when I was really young, and he had Super Mario World, like the actual one. I was like, oh hey, this is just like that Game Boy game I have. Because I had no, I mean, I was a kid, I had no idea that it was some other game just ported onto the Game Boy. It was like, okay, this is cool. I like this a lot. And I just from growing up, it was always my favorite for whatever reason. I tried, Sunshine, which is great, Galaxy, which is also great, but SMW, I think it might just be the cave. So is my favorite.
Just the cape?
Yeah, just the cave. Great, great game. I liked everything about it, really. It was so cool. I mean, like secret exits and all that were super cool to find. Like I remember just running around levels for forever wondering how I was going to, I guess, find the key. It was just a whole like exploration thing. Whereas some of the newer ones, there is a lot of that, but in like the middle there in like Sunshine, it was kind of, you got your hub overworld. You'd go to a few different places and get some secrets, but it didn't really control the path on the overworld the way it does in SMW. Like you just can't go places if you don't find the exit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, what'd you start with exactly? Like, what category?
I started with 11 exit, which at the time was actually any percent,
Mm-hmm.
because that was all we had as any percent. And like I said, Dram did a run at that previous AGDQ at the time, and he did something called Orb Glitch, which just gives you an item that immediately ends the level if you haven't seen it. And so I thought, okay, this is super cool. It's like, a 10-minute run, very, very short and sweet. You get to beat the game really fast. And that trick is really cool. So you get a little bit of everything in that 10-minute run. Plus, I mean, in general, that's what I would recommend anyone start with any game is just unless it's super different from the rest of the game, do like an 80% run and
Mm-hmm.
just get used to it, learn how the game works, learn how to fly in SMW. Just play around and really learn the game. And from there, I just kind of did longer and longer categories, which I think really worked out pretty well.
Was a cloud a thing yet?
No,
Hmm.
not even. So let's see. Cloud would have been. I want to say early. It was either really early 2015 or really early 2016, and I can't remember which one. But yeah, no. At the time, there was no cloud, there was no credits warp, there was no, and that's why it was any percent because it really was all we had. Uh, there was none of that, and then at some point, those all got found. RTA credits warp got pulled off, cloud got added, and we renamed all the categories just to be exit based for the most part. 11 exit is, kind of like any percent, but then credits warp, you beat the game in 30 seconds. So it just said, that's zero exit, 11 exit is 11 exit, and 96 is 96. Made things a lot easier.
So was
But
96
cloud,
like 100% back then?
yeah, 96 is every exit of every level because the good amount of them have two exits, and you have to do just everything else, special world, star world, and it's the closest thing we really have to a trackable 100%. And I guess what I mean by that is there's like the dragon coins and the moons, which is its own category. But those don't actually save if you like restart your console. So you can do it, and it is kind of like more of the game than 96, but it's not like a percent. It doesn't track it. It doesn't save it. As soon as you reset, it's like just a normal 96 file. So I like to call it 100%.
Yeah, when you get 96, it gives you the little star. So it's like, yep, that's 100.
Yeah,
Nothing else to
exactly.
do.
Yeah, and funny, the Japanese version actually does not give you the star,
Mm.
and also for you can glitch exits on the American version, so you can get up to I don't know what it's at this point. You can get well over 100 exits at this point, and I
Mm.
don't think the Japanese version keeps track, but uh the original, US version, it'll just keep going up, 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 up until you have like A0, A1, A2 exits instead of a normal number.
I see. Does it still have the star? Like,
I don't even know. I think it might overwrite the star when you do that, but I'm not
mm.
sure. That's a great side category. If you ever have some time and want to look up something funny, check the Super Mario World extra categories leaderboard on speedrun.com. There's about 50 categories on there.
Yeah, I've never heard of it going over 96 before.
Yeah, and it's funny, and like as it started as like I don't even know A0, but over the years as people have broken the game more, they've found more exits to get, so it just kind of becomes higher and higher until you just it doesn't really seem like there will ever be a cap as long as you can just keep tricking the game to ending levels. But it's a good kind of like exploratory thing that people do.
That's interesting. There's like, how many categories are on the extensions? I know like Mario 1 has a ton, but that game feels like there's a lot more complicated things you could do.
Yeah, so on our extended leaderboard, I want to say there's probably between 30 and 40, maybe 50 categories on there. And to begin with, our not extension, like our main leaderboard, has a good amount of categories, just
Hmm.
based on the fact it's really all based on the fact that Cape is so broken and just invalidates so much of the game that our other categories are, beat the game without Cape, beat all the castles without Cape, and then you go all the way down to small only though, which just takes everything out of it, uh, and you're just doing it with as little as possible.
Yeah, low percent.
Yeah, that's another one that didn't survive the times. It used to be called low percent, and then we've renamed a bunch of categories over the years. That's another one that didn't survive the times. And it just I don't know, SFW, we opted for just kind of like describing the category, which I think for a lot of the game in general makes way more sense, because otherwise, like I just said, you can go up to A5, A6 exits, you're gonna end up with like just what's 100%, what's that, so just you know you just basically describe it as literally as possible. We've got no star world, beat special, 96 exit, 11 exit, credits warp. They're all pretty easy to understand just from looking at the name.
Hmm. I guess that is a lot. Since there's so many, it makes it a lot easier for people to come in and be like, oh, I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it makes sense for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of complicated like little details to a lot of them for sure. And there's some rules that aren't intuitive just based on the name. Like in 96, you're not allowed to use like orb or cloud, I guess, as current rules stand. But you wouldn't know that. It's not called like 96 exit glitchless or whatever, and it's definitely not glitchless. It's just certain things in the game would kind of destroy the spirit of the category, which I think a lot of games have. But it's kind of just on a case by case basis of this would ruin the run if it was allowed and all that. And people can always run, and I mean it's half the reason why our leaderboard is so big on the extra categories. People can run whatever they want, and for SMW, most people actually do. People will just run whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember to always read the rules for more information on the category you're doing.
Yeah, please click the button on the leaderboard. It's the only way you'll know.
Mm-hmm. Very true. So you started in 2013 with like 11 exit. Did you do orb right away or did you do glitchless to start?
So I didn't do orb right away. Pretty fast, honestly. One of the big finds at the time was a consistent orb setup. And that was shortly before I started. So that was called Virus Orb, made by Virus 610. And that was just like before that, as far as I know, Orb was just it wasn't that bad, but it was kind of like a trick that you'd really have to practice out and wait to actually do in runs. But
Mm-hmm.
with that setup, I mean, it's I hate to say free, but it was very easy to get the trick. And so I learned the game. I did, maybe a couple weeks of runs with no orb, and then I started doing any percent with orb at the time, and it just went from there. Like I said, no cloud at the time, so I ended up getting the time I was okay with at the time for orb, and said, okay, let's just move on to longer categories. And then since then, I definitely like 96 the most, and just in general, I think 100% of most games are what I like watching the most and playing.
Mm-hmm. So how long did it take you to do 96 after starting?
Let's see. So initially, I had at the time 11 exit experience and then like no Star World experience, which is about a third of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do some 96 runs, and in those 30 levels, I was great and did fine and did fine. And then in the other 2/3 of the game, I would just die 8,000 times in a row. So I ended up with about I think 3 hours for my first few runs of 96, and that started in like November 2013, maybe December, and it took me, I don't know, a good amount of time, like a year or two, to get a time that I was, I guess, happy with. Uh, I ended up just, slowly grinding down over time. After the first couple of 3 hours, it's pretty easy to get like a sub two, because you just stop dying. That's just so much time saved there just from not dying and having to go back and get power ups, and that'll give you like a sub 2 hour as long as you don't do that.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything ridiculous yet.
No, you really don't even have to do anything yet, honestly. Like you just need to, I guess, I mean it's the Mario thing, just keep going right.
Mm-hmm.
You just as long as you're going right and not dying, you can get a, pretty good time, a pretty respectable time. I mean, even now, you can do SMW is really good because it has a lot of level, like difficulty levels to the strats you can do. Like any given level will have, beginner, intermediate, expert, super expert, and, IL only, individual level only strats. And that's the case for a lot of levels. So you can kind of pick and choose. Even now, like I have a pretty decent 96 exit time, but I'll go into a level and say, I'm ahead a lot, and the risk reward on this is so bad. So I'll do like, the intermediate advanced strat instead of the super crazy strat.
How much does RNG play into the run?
Basically not at all, thankfully.
That's
Uh,
good.
yeah, the only real and like the only real like RNG like thing in 96 that I ever dealt with was Yoshi clips, which are kind
Mm-hmm.
of infamous for that. And that's, anytime you do the trick, you still have a 25% chance of not getting it. It'll just kick you out, it won't clip, and you have to try again.
Is that a subpixel thing?
It is, I'm trying to think. It's not actually RNG either, and people are gonna be mad if I say it's RNG. It's
Hmm.
I think a frame timer thing from like the beginning of the game But yes, if you don't have the right pixel, subpixel, it'll kick you out. But for whatever reason, and I truly, I mean, it's like my style. I don't know anything about really the game. I totally leave that to our great tasking scene. I just push the buttons. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a 75% chance of having a good pixel and then just the 1 in 4 of having a bad one.
Okay. It's kind of like
And that
judges.
I think is like the global frame timer that just starts when you start the game.
Okay. So there's really no way to like know going into it. So
Not
it's
really. So if
essentially
you
RNG,
can
just not technically it.
yeah, and so you can actually you can give yourself a bad value, a bad subpixel value to where you know it won't work, or it'll just yeah to where you know it won't work. But you can set it up to where you will have the good subpixel, which then still has a 25% chance of kicking you out.
Mm-hmm.
But you could give yourself. Usually, it involves getting kicked off Yoshi and remounting him, or bonking your head against the ceiling, or whatever it may be. You can give yourself the good setup. It's just still not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. But that's like the only thing. That's
That's really the
not in your
only thing.
control. Wow.
Yeah. Then that I mean that's a good and a bad thing. The rest of the I'd say overall a good thing, but the rest of the run is pretty much entirely execution.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like if you mess up, it's your fault, and you have to be like, okay, I'll practice this more next time. And there's really not that much RNG or subpixel that you can't really see involved with the run. And even those, a lot of the crazier stuff is only if you're going for a very top time, but that's still all execution for the most part.
Mm-hmm. I'm just I've seen a lot of like SMP3 stuff and like you can play perfectly and it does not matter at all. So it's nice that such a long game is like, oh, it's all execution based. So it's
Yeah,
like
and
nice.
it's great. It's great. Yeah, I don't know how like Mitch and Louie and those guys do SMV3 with the hands and the
Mm-hmm.
hammers and just all the RNG. I'd get so frustrated. But no, I do really like the lack of randomness. Although I'd say watching, honestly, as a viewer, some of the random things about SMB3 and other games are actually very entertaining. Because it's not under control, and you know that this guy is the best in the world or whatever, and he has no hope of not getting no hands or whatever because it's out of his control. And so
Mm-hmm.
the actual runs where you do get all the good RNG, it's somehow I think more special as a viewer. I mean, as a player too, but as a viewer who I used to watch a lot of SMB3, it's like okay, wow, he got past the hands, he didn't get RNG'd and lose the run. So now it's like a whole other aspect that's I guess it's like yeah, it's almost like gambling or hitting the lottery. You're like he just hit the lottery, so it's kind of exciting to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely really exciting to watch, but I've played SMP3 personally, and RNG is not something I enjoy. It's why I play all the other Mario games.
Yeah,
Mario 1
and
has nothing.
no,
So,
no, and yeah, I mean that Mario One's crazy with
mm-hmm.
how tight it is, and just with the science and everything. And even like SM64, the only RNG you'll ever really get is coin RNG, as far as I know, for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, and that's fine. I mean, most people would probably say SM64 really doesn't have RNG as a speed run.
Yeah, for like 120, it plays a pretty okay factor. I guess not like percentage wise because it's such a low percentage of the run where like coins scattering matter, but with also how like varied it is, it can be multiple seconds at a time each time, which,
For sure.
and I mean, despite that being such a long category, it is like very optimized. So you really need that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll see, Liam or Ouija or whoever I'm watching do 120. They'll lose time to coins, but ultimately it's usually an execution mistake that destroys the run. It's usually not a lot of just RNG, but it's a good category for sure. Honestly, in my opinion, I think SM64 120 star is I guess the best speed run like of any game, any category. Like that is the speed run for me. Like if you wanted to show somebody what speedrunning was, just show them a run of SM64 120 star. Just show them the current world record.
It is definitely a good one. It's insane how long it is, how optimized it is. I mean, that's 3D too. I mean, I guess they
Yeah.
do have the notches at least. It's not like Odyssey where you can't really exactly pinpoint what direction you're going.
No, yeah, the notches help for sure. Although they have the whole like controller thing just down to a science. It's almost like professional Smash Bros players will have like a box of controllers with like this is the one with the good notches and this is the one that is good for Bowser throws. And oh, I spent a bunch of time maintaining my control stick just so I could get the angles I wanted, which makes sense, but is still a huge part of it. And most people, as far as I know, will swap controllers for at least Bowser throws during their runs.
Yeah, they use the Hori for the Bowser throws because the original stick sucks to spin
Yeah,
around. I
yeah, it
mean,
does.
they told like Nintendo themselves told you not to do that, but then
Yeah,
made
you
games
you
where you
got you
have
got
to do
like the
that. So
glove.
yeah, the
You got like
glove.
the yeah to protect your hand from the terrible spinning.
Ugh, what were
Yeah.
they thinking?
SMW has a little bit of that, or not a little bit, but like people will maintain their controllers as well. Like they'll buy the just individual buttons and like the rubbers that are inside the controller and maintain it, and it actually does make a pretty good difference. People will play with like softer ones or more firm ones depending on what they like. And every now and then you do have to kind of just break into your controller and give it a little bit of a clean.
I
For the
replace
most
my
part, though,
controller
it's
rubbers
fine.
like monthly.
Yeah, yeah. I've always been worse about it, but I usually try to do it, at least once a year. I mean, especially now that I don't play that much, it's not a huge deal. But especially if you're playing like ROM hacks or just grinding a ton with all the precise movement, you'll burn through those things so fast.
hmm The one thing about the SNES controller is the D-pad. I feel like it like registers diagonals way too much, like where you don't want it.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. That is probably one of the bigger things. People will rotate their D-pad in the controller just to make it uh, lean, I guess, in a better direction, or work with how they hold the controller. For sure, you can get really messed up by how easily it diagonals on a SNES controller.
I never thought about rotating the D-pad. I should try that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I'm trying to think. I think Area 51 would always do that. He'd rotate it. Just if it was getting bad or worn down or whatever, he'd flip it and just try a new direction.
If it works.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, and it does, I was a fan. I definitely did it a few times.
So going into 2014, did you just do more of the same or
So yeah, I would say so. My first, so started in 2013. My first year or two was just learning the game, I would say, and learning the community, getting to meet everyone, doing the weekly race, and all that. And that ended up being a lot of fun. But yeah, I spent most of my 2013 all the way probably through the end of 2015 just playing the game and doing a lot of races on Speedruns Live at the time.
so you were just like
Uh,
exclusive Mario World?
Yeah, absolutely. I did not play a single other game on stream probably until, I don't know, 3 years in, and that was probably a Mario ROM hack, like, that was probably Kaizo 1. And then eventually I branched out a little bit more, like, I would do some, Mario Sunshine speedruns of any percent. A few years ago, I tried SM64 and speedran that for a little bit. I did like it a lot, and that's something I definitely go back to. But I still branched out to mostly Mario, and then as it happens, you kind of speedrun less over time, and so I'll do casual playthroughs of whatever, and it's almost back to like how streaming originally was back in 2013, where I'm just sitting in front of a computer and like whoever watches watches. And then in the middle there, I had there was a huge, time there in the middle where I was trying to grow the stream and just look at it in that way. And there's definitely fun things to do for that. And it definitely, is hard, a lot of hard work. And it is fun in a lot of ways. Just back to where I'm at now, just booting up whatever random game and just doing a blind playthrough or whatever for stream.
Yeah, growing streams is definitely hard. Like that's not something I personally focus on because I just know it's difficult. I just want to have fun. I want to like play
Yeah.
into the algorithm or whatever Twitch will tell you you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm less familiar with how it works now, but it's a whole science. Like
hmm
back when I was really trying to push for partner and all that, It was like, okay, I'll stream it these hours on these days every single week because it's a good time slot. And like, this is when I get the most viewers, and this is when the least other people are streaming. And like, let me see if I can get a raid because this guy ends stream at this time. And I'm right about to apply for partner. So it'd be really good if I could get this raid or whatever that. And I did it less so with like collabs, but definitely there was like, how do I get more people interested? How do I do things that are more interesting for people? Because it is hard in a lot of ways just being a speedrunning stream, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced it. You know, if you get burnt out and you're just the SMW guy or the SMB guy, you know, what are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you play?
Yeah, exactly. Usually you just stop completely.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all hard and complicated and ugh, I don't like thinking about it.
It's a whole thing, yeah. But once I branched out, it was into like ROM hacks, which are so much bigger now than they were at the time.
There's so
But
many of them too.
I stopped keeping track of the new ones
Hmm.
probably 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just gotten bigger. There's just so many ROM hacks by people. You know, there was back in the day, there was Kaizo 1 made by Takamoto, and now there are people, you know, who I've never heard of before, and they're like, "This is my 8th ROM hack." It's like, wow, this is my 8th ROM. This is the sequel to my 5th ROM hack, and you know, half the people in chat will be like, "Oh my god, I love their hacks." It's like, wow, this is just so huge now.
Yeah, SMW Central for all your ROM hacking needs.
Yeah, and you know, smwspeedruns.com for all your vanilla needs.
Hmm. Yeah, I played a few of them, and because the amount of things they can do in that game specifically is ridiculous. Like it
Yeah,
just abodes so well to ROM hacking compared to anything else, really.
yeah, it really does. It's like Mario Maker, but better.
Hmm.
It just that's like you're right. You're totally right. The format in the engine just lends itself so well to ROM hacks. Just the whole everything's exit based, and you can kind of just make individual levels that you know don't really have anything to do with each other, and just kind of chain them together on the overworld. The multiple exit system, just to begin with, is great for giving players options if you're making a level. And at this point, the resources are so good that it's like I don't know why anybody who was making SMW hacks would want to like do anything else. I mean, at this point, it's not even SMW stuff. There's so much custom code and patches for the game that are just standard that you just patch in, and it's like a kind of new experience in a really familiar setting. I think, which is the cool part.
It's definitely Mario Maker, but better. Just so much more customization and custom stuff.
Yeah, and you don't have Nintendo taking down your levels for
Well,
whatever reason they decide.
unless your hack gets too popular and then you get cease and desisted, but
You know, I'm not sure how often that's happened, but
maybe
yeah.
not for ROM hacks of World, but I've seen some stories of other
Oh yeah,
games in
for
similar
sure.
fashion.
For sure. I think, you know, for the most part, SMW hacking's been a pretty safe space for the most part in that regard.
Hmm.
Generally you can pretty much do whatever you want. And I mean a lot of it is nobody is commercializing SMW hacks. Like nobody's trying to sell them or do anything like that, which is probably the big thing. And nobody's it's still all SMW. Like nobody's kind of releasing a new thing. Like there was the SM64 like Unity update or whatever it was that I think immediately got taken down because it was just like HD modern SM64 in a new engine.
Hmm.
And I think sticking to like the original engine, and a part of it is it's still pretty low key. Like as big as the ROM hack community is, it's still tiny compared to just the world and what
Hmm.
Nintendo would care about.
Yeah. Like I know Mario 64 has some good ROM hacks, but the thing is none of them like run on console. But Mario World ones, like they all just run perfectly every time. It's great.
Yeah, that's definitely a big development too. That didn't always used to be the case, but nowadays it's like if your hack doesn't run on console, who cares? I
Hmm.
mean, there are still some people that'll play emulator only hacks, but that used to be like it is for SM64. That used to be like the standard is this doesn't necessarily work very well on console. But yeah, nowadays, if it doesn't, it's like, get out. Who cares?
Mhm.
You're just limiting your audience because every other hack does work on console.
Yeah, my SD to SNES is just full of them, and they're also
Yeah.
good usually.
Yeah, usually. And honestly, the SMW Central's got a great moderation team. I mean, they're actually playing the hacks to verify them, and most of the team, I'm not sure who's on it nowadays, but over time, most of the people who have gone on and off the team since I started have been ROM hack players or makers at least. And so you really get I mean, you really get like a very good curated list of ROM hacks. I mean, obviously some of them aren't great, but SMW Central also has enough of a community on its own to where you can usually like trust the ratings. And there's enough of them to say, okay, this is kind of this is actually, a well reviewed or a badly reviewed hack. You can at least get probably a handful, a couple dozen reviews on any given hack to look at.
Hmm. And I mean, I only play like the casual, like fun new game stuff, but I know there's a whole like Kaizo scene that too complicated for me, but you probably have better experience with that.
Yeah, that's really all I have experience with. I would say it's way bigger than the. I know what you're talking about. It's not vanilla, but like like just adventure hacks or whatever you want to call
Hmm.
them. Like the forget what the word is for
Just
it,
like
but
not
yeah,
hard
yeah,
regular
just like
ROM
a
hacks.
remix of the original game. Like
Hmm.
just fun, not Kaizo, or I think it's just called maybe standard hacks. Can't remember, like not Kaizo standard, but that's like smaller, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and that's definitely grown as well over the years. There's plenty more of those, but it's almost hard to find things that aren't Kaizo if you're looking at
Hmm.
SMW Central, and thankfully there's more of the other kind as well now, and those are a lot of fun. But Kaizo was always like my direction, like that's always what I liked.
So what kind of Kaizo stuff have you done?
God, so much. Mostly I'll stick to just playthroughs of hacks. I don't really speedrun most of them. So I'll do just, whatever the new flavor of the month hack is when I was playing that, or I'll go back and look at some classics every now and then. I started with the classics like Kaizo 1, 2, 3, when those were really all we had at the time. Then there was like Dram World 1, Dram World 2 that the Panga made, and that kind of just kicked off its whole. I mean, it really kicked off how ROM hacking ended up today, where everybody's making hacks, and then the first 20 hacks were all just a chain of people naming them after some person they liked, and then the next person would make a hack of some other person they liked
Hmm.
until you get all the way down. And now we're at, hacks are basically their own game at this point. But I really started just going through that, and there wasn't really much to choose from at the time. So I do that. I even speedran Kaizo 1. I've speedrun Kaizo 1 a few times over the years. And some of the newer ones like Quickie World 1 and 2, I'll speedrun. I like doing those, like the very short 15, 20-minute speedruns. And there's a ton of them nowadays, but those are like really what I did. Were Kaizo 1, Quickie 2, and a couple longer ones, like, hour long hacks. But as long as it's something I can beat, I pretty much played it. I didn't try really anything that's incredibly super hard, but as long as I felt I could beat it, that's really what made me decide to play something or not.
Yeah. What I've seen a lot of with Kaizo hacks, I don't watch it a ton, but there's so much like custom stuff to make it harder. Like some weird like I don't know, you can bounce off a shell more, the screen is gonna do this thing that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it nowadays. And although honestly, I think kind of the charm to Kaizo 1 is that it didn't have any of that, and it was just all vanilla uh objects and enemies just kind of rearranged in a different way.
Hmm.
But nowadays, absolutely. And you get some really cool things. Like you said, shells that you can bounce on multiple times. You'll have, death blocks that flicker in and out, which didn't exist at all in vanilla SMW. You'll have different kinds of switches to open up new paths. And then you get all the way down to you'll have a final boss that's just a totally custom coded assembly boss that's just an entirely new thing in the game. And those are really I think like a community a community special for at least SMW hacks. At least people really love a good custom final boss.
Yeah, those things are ridiculous to see.
Yeah, I and it's even an older one, but there's a hack called Jump that's pretty well known. And their like final boss was from years ago, and it was like a custom bullet hell Gundam mech like super fight, and that just really stands out to you if you run into it. It's like this is crazy. This is like an entire. I'm playing an entirely different game, or like this fight is an actual boss. Yeah, I'm not sure how much how much you played of SMW, but the actual bosses are so easy. Like they're not even boss fights; they're just the
No,
end of
they're
the
not.
level.
Mm-hmm. They are
They're
quite
just
easy.
yeah, you just they're not even a thought. Like if you're in the speed run and you're doing it, most runs probably struggle at bosses. SMW, it's like the break. The boss fight is 3 seconds long, and then you get like a cutscene after. So that's when you go, walk around or get some water or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's funny how much of a pushover they are. Although the final one, despite not being like terribly difficult, it does take a long time.
Yeah, and that last one, Bowser at least has strats, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are all so short, you really don't have much room to be creative. But Bowser, the final Bowser, is an actual, I'd say, good fight. It's pretty iconic. He's got like the clown copter flying around. And that's an actual just, challenge in some degree. And I've lost, and everyone's lost runs to doing Cape Kill on the final Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
So we've at least got something, but all the custom ones are crazy and just on an entirely different level.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit of Jump since you brought it up. That's not like quite Kaizo, right? It's like a
I would say
little
so.
easier.
It's a little so Kaizo isn't. I would say this is definitely something that a lot of people think. Kaizo isn't actually a difficulty. It's a style.
Mm.
And in that degree, I would say it is a Kaizo hack mostly. Now there's like 125 exits in Jump, so a lot of the levels are not Kaizo levels, but overall, I would say it is a Kaizo hack. It's definitely easier than most Kaizo hacks, but and it gets a lot more creative, and you'll try out like gimmicks and levels as opposed to just being pure platforming. But that's kind of almost a good intro Kaizo hack in a lot of ways. It's a little different than how brutal most of them are, but that kind of just like precise platforming and just level design with like munchers and everything everywhere is very very signature Kaizo in a lot of ways. And but Jump is big enough to have everything. It's got puzzle levels, it's got standard levels. Jump is just a great hack in general.
Yeah. I definitely thought Kaizo was a difficulty, not a style. So, well, I,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it
no,
kind of was, but like
yeah,
when you hear
originally it
Kaizo,
definitely
you think, oh,
was.
hard.
Yeah, and that's still the case for I guess most people. But if you go to SMW Central and look at the hacks, you'll actually see there's like Kaizo Light, Kaizo Hard. I think at this
Mm.
point they've actually redone the entire difficulty system. But back when I was playing more, it was like Kaizo Light, Kaizo Intermediate, Kaizo Hard. And so there's a lot of room there. And Kaizo was really just this is a level or this is a hack that's trying to be precise platforming and like very unforgiving if you mess up.
So, when you did, it was 96 exit weekly races, I assume.
Yeah, well, we would race everything,
Oh,
but the
okay.
big weekly was 96.
Mm-hmm.
And it's come in and out multiple times since I've been speedrunning over the last 10 years. But yeah, that was always the big weekly race was 96. At the time we'd be doing it in like a TeamSpeak server, which tells you how long ago that was.
I
Or a
don't know what that
Skype
is.
call. Or a
Before
Skype
Skype.
call.
Oh, okay. No, Skype. Did you
Yeah,
use
yeah. So we went for
SRL?
yeah, so we were on Speedruns Live. Our original calls were on TeamSpeak, and then they were on Skype, and then
Mm-hmm.
finally we moved to Discord when that got more popular.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 96 was the huge one. Pretty much everyone would do a 96 weekly. They weren't at everyone, but you'd get a good amount of people doing it and just talking in Discord. It was a good community building kind of thing, like most weeklies are. And I liked that. It's like I said, it's part of the main reason I stuck around was like the community was nice and actually like good to talk to and did a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do that. We'd have just random, any percent or 11 exit races. I had a few people I started the game with at the same time who it's like, okay, we're gonna do 1,011 exit races, and just night after night, it was just seeing who would win. It was like an actual just fun little thing. And it seems like there's a lot less of that nowadays, but I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and also the Mario World community especially is like really large, so I can imagine there's a lot of people that would join stuff like that.
Yeah, even back then, it was a very large speedrunning community, and now if you include Kaizo, it might be the biggest, but
Mm,
without Kaizo, even it's still huge.
yeah.
Without all the ROM hacking stuff,
Yeah. It's a
and
shame that
it's great.
races kind of died off.
Yeah, and it did, and we'll still do tournaments, which was a big fun thing we did over the years, and I helped run a couple, and we'll still have tournaments, and especially like the international SMW scene, like the Japanese runners and the Brazilian runners will do a lot more of that than it seems like we do here in America. They'll do a lot of community events, and it always seems like I'll go to the directory and SMW Brazil or Japan will be doing those kinds of events. So I'm glad some people are still doing it. And in general, it's good to see. At the time when I started, there wasn't really much of an international scene at all. There was like one or two Japanese runners who had some really good times, but didn't like hang out with us, or and at the time I think they might have like been mostly retired, even like they were not playing the game much anymore. And then slowly over time it got to the point where those are definitely, I mean, the biggest part of the community now are those international scenes.
Yeah, I feel like all of the top names on the leaderboard now are Japanese runners.
Yeah, and that would have been impossible like even 3 or 4 years ago, just cuz there weren't that many at all, let alone good at the game.
Yeah.
Uh and now like, Louis from Italy, he's got all the top times in every game in the world.
Hmm.
And yeah, we got plenty of Japanese runners at the top of the board, plenty of Brazilian runners who are great. I don't know, I never it's just cool to see where you get a SMW community, because I mean, I guess Brazil in general is huge into most esports, and so it kind of makes sense. But it's just cool to see that there's people all over the place doing SMW running.
Yeah, I don't know how like other countries, especially like Brazil, I know it's like harder to get video game stuff, so I don't know how it gets so big there. I almost feel like they get consoles like 20 years late. So they're like
Yeah, I
20
feel
years
like I've heard
behind.
that
It's like
too.
SNES is the current big console, maybe.
I don't think it's quite that bad, but definitely
Yeah.
there are runners who I'll follow on Twitter who are like, I can't get a Switch, or like I really really want a Switch. Does anyone know where I can get one? And some of them, one of them named Furious, he'll build a lot of custom stuff, uh, and it's not necessarily to like fill the void of that, but it is just some things that he'll do, just like work on his own projects, or like SNES classic things to try and, I guess, help out and kind of just do his own thing. It's a lot of, I mean, it's definitely very, very like grassroots and community driven in a lot of ways, and they're putting in a lot of work to make things just great in general.
Does Sphere still have the zero exit record?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I would say no, I don't think so, but that's actually a good question. Zero exit's a tough one. Let's see
Yeah.
who's got zero exit. It is Furious. He's
Mm.
got it by zero point 0.3 seconds over Seth Bling. Actually, still he was still
Still
second
the
place.
top two.
Yeah, and then wow, well the third place is from a month ago though.
Mm.
So, and let's see, he's from Chile. So we'll see how that
Oh,
goes. It is
nice. South
it is
America.
cool. Like, yeah, it is cool with how like little I get involved that much with the community to go to, well, really any games leaderboard, but definitely SMW, and see like, oh, there's a top 10 96 time or a top 15 96 time from somebody I've never heard of before from like 2 weeks ago. So you're like, oh, somebody is actually grinding and improving, and just seeing times update like that is still cool.
Have you ever tried zero exit?
No, I've not. I
Mm.
never had any interest in it, and it was just I watched so much of like Seth and Furious and Dots do zero exit runs, especially when it first started. But it got so complicated so fast. It was like
Mm.
I really don't have much interest in most of the more glitched categories because it gets very ridiculous and it's super cool, but I guess I like playing the game normally, I guess.
Hmm.
Like I don't I think the glitches are super cool, but I think it's just as cool watching somebody do them as doing them myself for all those crazy ones.
Yeah, it's crazy how many glitches are in Mario World 2. It's such a broken game compared to almost anything else in its own
Yeah,
unique way.
oh yeah, and there seems like there's a new one all the time. There's actually a really good YouTube series from way, way back in the day, by Nathan is Bored called Let's Glitch Super Mario World. And I think every single video was them. I think it was level by level, or maybe a couple levels per video, going through and just showing off all the glitches you could possibly do. And I mean, it got through the entire game in like I don't even know the dozens of episodes. There's hours of SMW glitch content, and they would try to explain all of them. And it was kind of a good look into how glitched and broken SMW is as a game.
Yeah, and then you go into the whole arbitrary code execution side of things. It's like, what
Yeah,
is
and
going on?
that was really just the beginning of the end for everything. It's just this is just so different now. And this is you really are not limited anymore by much. And you get things like Seth Bling making Flappy Bird in Super Mario World.
Did you see the SGQ run last year?
Yeah, I think I was actually in person watching that. I can't remember what they did, but I watched like the all four
Hmm.
uh one that Seth and Dots did. Oh, I can't really remember what the outcome was, but I remember just them rattling off input after input for the
Hmm.
arbitrary code execution that y'all were doing,
Yep.
and just program the game live on stage at GDQ.
Hmm. Yeah, it didn't work out. I was player three in that for some reason. And then so it was Dwango and I were in the back with controllers as well. I think I got all my inputs right, but God, that entire setup was so complicated. It didn't work live, but in practice, we got it like 5 times in a row.
Crazy. Yeah, and I mean, fortunately, you guys had like a backup cart, right? Or
Yeah,
Seth
he
did
did a whole
something.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, he blew on the cartridge and then put in
but
the
I
back.
actually swapped it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it is a cool thing to show off. And I think they did just like a SMW credits warp race at maybe it was AGDQ 16. There was like just it was shortly after credits warp was a thing, and they did like a 4 person, just 2 minute race or whatever to do credits warp.
Is that back when
And
it took a lot longer and was less
yeah, it was. I
complicated?
think it was like 2 minutes.
Mm.
And they did. Trying to remember. I think they still had to do like that power up incrementation thing where they would go into like the second level and you'd get like catch up Mario instead of
Yeah, yeah.
Fire Mario. And it was largely based on that. They don't need to do that anymore for the current credits warp setup. But I think that's, if I remember correctly, that's like how the original one started. Was getting like fifth power up Mario and going back.
Yeah, I love doing the power up implementation just to see what wild sprites you get.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff like that. Like one of my favorite glitches is Neon World, where if you end a level off stage, or it's like you end a level at the same time you die, the overworld just turns neon.
Hmm.
And there's like a setup you can do for it in the second level, and it just breaks the entire overworld and it looks super funky.
Does it stay like that forever? Does it correct after you enter a level?
I think it corrects after you enter a level. It definitely corrects on reset, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it corrects after you enter a level.
All right. I've never seen that one. Now I have to look that up later.
Yeah, in the Neon World.
Neon World. So when Cloud came out, because that's like technically arbitrary code execution. Did you do any of that though?
I did not like right at first when they were still making all the rules, but pretty soon after. And there's a lot that changed in general. I mean, to begin with, I think that's what prompted the switch, or credits warp was what it was like at the same time, and that prompted the switch from calling everything any percent or low percent to 11 exit, 0 exit, all that. Because once you got into the arbitrary code execution and all that, it's like, okay, any percent really doesn't mean anything anymore, unless it's just the fastest run, which it could be. But now it's just we're naming everything by the number of exits.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, when Cloud first came out, that was huge, and that was after God, I don't know, 2, 3 years of the 11 exit world record not changing with Orb. I think it was, yeah, at least few years, I mean, definitely until Cloud came out, that they got even a new 11 exit world record. Like, all the way from when I was starting until Cloud came out, that record didn't change. Uh, and nobody even was really close, honestly, that I can remember. And that was a cool thing to experience and just learn, because the Bowser fight was already like kind of cool with the cape kill, but that changed the entire Bowser fight and changed really the entire way you played the game. Because now, if you got hit at all, it was just run over. Like, even if you were, not doing a great run, like you didn't have a great time on the leaderboard, if you got hit and lost the Cloud, it's just run over. You physically can't do the game.
Hmm. I
And
find
it
it funny
really it
that
really changed
oh,
everything.
I find it funny that Orb isn't Ace, but the Cloud is. Like I understand. I've seen like videos on it, and I understand why it's considered that. But it's just funny because they seem like so similar with how that you get the item.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where it's like, I don't want to touch that with like a 10-foot pole because I don't even know it. I don't even understand enough to say. But
Hmm.
that was always just, and I mean, it's a discussion that happened for many years and might even still be happening. I feel like I see people messaging about it in the SW Discord every now and then. Like, is it ace? Is it non-ace? What really matters here? What counts?
Hmm.
And I think, like I was saying earlier, it just kind of came down to, we made rules for each category based on what was in the spirit of the category, and accepted that, like, not every rule set is going to be like perfect on paper,
Hmm.
or like it not every rule set's going to account for everything, and not every name is going to be incredibly descriptive of what the category is. We tried to do as best we could with like 11 exit and 0 exit and all that, but in 96, but like I was saying, 96 doesn't tell you that you can't use Orb and Cloud unless you were to just look at the rules. You'd figure, oh, it's 100%, do whatever glitches you want. And if you look at some of the glitches that you do in a current 96 exit speed run, you'd be like, how come they're allowed to do this, but Orb and Cloud aren't allowed? And it really came down to just the spirit of the run, and also the fact that they are different glitches. Like, the ones you're doing now are not arbitrary code execution, but you wouldn't, just to an outsider or to anyone, it would just be like, this seems just as broken as Cloud or anything else you would do.
Hmm. Yeah, when the game's as broken as Mario World, it's hard to get all the rules finalized. I'm sure.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of our current rule sets were made because Seth Bling looked at whatever the current rules was and tried intentionally to break them. Like, very, very much test case of, oh, it says that you can't do this, but technically, if you do it in this way, you're not breaking any rules. And so that actually, it helped out iron out a lot of the fine points. And that was around like the whole 0 exit renaming and all that, because he was going through and really like limit testing, like what's arbitrary code execution, what is allowed in what category, and what does it say is allowed in which category.
Hmm. I like that 11 exit separated Cloud, Orb, and Glitchless now into their own little tabs.
See, I actually don't like that, and that's the never ending community discussion that
Yeah.
happens like 5 times a year. Is like, why, and I wish there was possible to see them all on one tab.
Hmm. No,
I
I get
really
that
wish it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you ask me, like, it's all just 11 exit, which, I mean, again, this conversation's been happening for 5, 6 years at this point, so it's all just whatever. But there's enough of a demand for it to where they split it, and it's like, okay, sure. I just do wish you could see them all on one leaderboard, because
Hmm.
functionally, if you watch, 99% of the runs between glitchless Orb and Cloud are the same. Like, most of the levels are identical,
Yeah.
and it's just some of them are faster.
Yeah, I do wish you could see them all on one leaderboard too, because I keep a spreadsheet of all of my PBs, and I like to put like what placement I was when I got it. And when they made that change, it ruined my data. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's all separate now. Well,
Yeah, there's a lot of things we've run into over the years where it's like I just wish speedrun.com had a little bit more functionality in this way or this
Hmm.
way. And with how many categories and subcategories SMW has, we're like such an outlier, but it comes up a lot just because of that.
Yeah, don't worry, I could go on an hour-long rant about speedrun.com and its current state.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty it's a website. And I mean that you want to talk about back in the day, we were using our own, I mean, like a lot of communities, we were using our own like wiki for leaderboards, and you could just kind of like edit the wiki and add your time to the leaderboard.
oh yeah, when you started, SRC wasn't a thing yet, was it?
No, not even I think we were at least 3 years away from SRC, and at least adding SMW to SRC. We were far, far, far away from that. It was all you'd go to like speedruns live and look at like the race world records, if you were curious about that. But then each individual game in like SMW had its own leaderboard, and we had our wiki that also had like it was the wiki, it was the leaderboard, it had a bunch of strats, it had player biographies. It was a good website, but
Player
uh,
biographies.
oh
Interesting.
yeah, and yeah, if you go back to like if you way back machine it and somehow find it, which I've done but never remember the actual URL because it was something stupid that had nothing to do with SMW. You can go and like individual players like Dram or me or Author Blues or whoever will just have like a link to their bio, and it's just some complete nonsense that somebody wrote about. Usually they were all just memes, but it was just some people had their own like player pages. It was like, there was some personality to it. I thought it was funny.
That sounds fun. I've never seen anything like that in current
Yeah,
day.
yeah, it really was just like a freely editable wiki, and anybody could do whatever with some minor moderation, but pretty much you could just edit whatever you want, and it was all fair game.
Were there some bad actors?
No, not really that I ever remember. I mean, I wasn't the one who managed the wiki, but there was never like somebody deleted the entire leaderboard or somebody added themselves in first place or somebody like destroyed somebody else's page. Like I don't remember that ever happening.
Well, that's
And
good because I feel like
yeah,
that
and
would
it
not
worked
happen if
out.
it was freely editable
Yeah, nowadays I
today.
don't think that would work at all. It would need to be
No.
need to be moderated a little bit more. But at the time it worked for just how I guess small the community was, even though it was still relatively big. There's like not really that much of a risk for that.
Hmm. So where were we? I try to follow the timeline, uh, but I got lost in the sauce, as they say.
Oh no. Never want to be lost in the sauce.
Never. I actually kind of just briefly mentioned like everything else you've ran, I guess. So,
Yeah, that I mean, I've enjoyed the time I've spent running other stuff. Like SM64, I would probably even still consider running,
hmm.
and the ROM hacks were fun as well. I'm trying to think if I actually ever did anything else besides that, and I'm not sure I did. Uh God, I can't even, yeah, I really can't even. Oh, duh. I've been doing Minecraft speedruns
Hmm.
recently and like a couple years ago. I've been doing those, and that's been a lot of fun, and I'm still doing that. But other than that, it's just been SMW and SM64. But it's always been fun. Really, SMW has pretty much always been the main game, and everything else has just been for when like you get burnt out and don't want to play it anymore, and just want to do something else. But it was always a lot of fun. My SM64 speedrun started because somebody bet me that I couldn't get like a sub 1 and 70 star in 1 month while I was doing like my first blind playthrough. They're like, I bet you can't, get sub 1 and 70 star in a month. And so I did a month of 70 star runs, and I actually ended up really enjoying it and, coming back and doing more, doing 16 star, doing a couple 120 runs.
Did you win the bet?
I did win the bet. I won it on the last possible day. It was sick.
Did you get like a
I
59, 59 too?
Yeah, I think it was like a 59-56, and
Oh my god.
I got it at like 4 in the morning on the last day. because I had stayed up like the previous night, like the second last day, started streaming at like I don't know 10 p.m. and then went all the way till 4 a.m. on what was technically the last day and got it. It was a lot of fun and like that those kinds of incentives are I guess probably more common than they used to be. Like people will do speed run bounties nowadays, which always kind of got talked about back in the day, but is definitely more prevalent now, even if it's not super popular.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely
And
seen a lot of bounties.
yeah, and I mean, back in the really back in the day, people hated money in speed running at all,
Mm-hmm.
which is like insane to think given the current state of Twitch in general, but also just speed running. Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine just somebody nowadays on their stream being like, I could not accept. I don't want anybody to offer any money for a prize pool for any tournaments. I don't want anybody to offer any money. I don't want in fact, it was like to the point where it's like I don't want external sponsors sponsoring events. Like, can
Mm-hmm.
you imagine somebody saying that nowadays?
No, not at all.
It's like it's like I don't there was something I think Speedruns Live was somehow involved with organizing it and they had a couple like external sponsors and they got huge pushback just from that and then like canceled the event and all it was
Hmm.
just I mean people hated the idea of money in speedrunning and I was always just like whatever I mean I don't care but it was just it was just so much different.
Yeah. It's
Now, I mean, you'll see people going into just some random stream and some random viewer going like, "So are you trying to do this for a living?" And it's like, "Bro, I have 10 viewers."
yeah.
Like that happens all the time now and it seems like there's a lot more opportunity for sure, but it did also add like a kind of element where, there are plenty of people who just do it for fun and are totally fine with that. And there are plenty of people who do it for like a full-time job and are fine with that. And then there are
Mm-hmm.
people in the middle where it's like, I'm doing like kind of well, but if I got like another few hundred viewers, if I got another sub, if I got another whatever, maybe I could do it full time. And there's a lot more opportunity there that I guess, there's more opportunities and there's more choices to make, which is stressful in a lot of ways, but
Mm-hmm.
also very good that the opportunities are there at all.
Yeah. It's nowadays like, they have these tournaments with huge prize pools sometimes at a big live setting. Like I guess you wouldn't see that a lot back then. And so many
No,
like
you
huge
wouldn't.
content creators like got their start from speedrunning and like grew grew it into like having being like a massive like YouTuber Twitch sensation.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, I know a few people who have done that, and it's very hard to do it. I don't know how anybody manages to do
Mhm.
it successfully. And like, I've had friends that have started streaming after I did, grew their channel, past to wherever I was, and then now are huge YouTubers. And like, I've watched every step of that, and I still don't know how they did it. And it's really cool if you can make content and actually make a living doing something as cool as playing video games. And I think it's obviously like dream job and all that. uh, and it's good that those opportunities are there, but yeah, just at the time it was like unimaginable. Like there was I had three big streamers associated with speedrunning, like Siglemic and whoever else.
Mhm.
uh and that was just it was just different times,
Did
and
people
Twitch as
get
a
mad at
whole is much
GDQ
bigger.
then? Because or did GDQ not have sponsors yet?
Nobody ever got mad at GDQ. I mean,
Well, that's good.
everyone always in like the same way that I'm talking about with like these prize pools and like sponsors for events. Like GDQ, I mean, to begin with at the time, yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't have the same amount. I want to say they probably still did have some sponsors, but they didn't have anywhere near what it was nowadays. And it was pretty much just like charity only. So
Mhm.
nobody ever cared. And by the time they got, the amount of sponsors that they have now, we were well past like the people hating money and speedrunning thing. Although, I mean, obviously, like you could go online every GDQ and see a bunch of people complaining because you could find that for everything. And
Mm,
it's
of
like,
course, yeah.
and most people nowadays don't mind.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good now. It's just funny that it was apparently such a big no-no back then.
Yeah, like, you were a sellout if you took, like, a sponsor or whatever, like that, you got called, like, a sellout, you're a monster, like, you're just in this for the money and not the love of the game, like, a bunch of ridiculous garbage like that. It's like, who
Wow.
cares?
Yeah. I guess it helps that like speedrunning grew so exponentially that it just became like a much bigger market for it, where people
Yeah,
just stopped
for
caring.
sure,
It was like,
for
oh wait,
sure.
this is profitable in sometimes. Why not just take
Sometimes.
advantage of that?
Yeah, I mean, and that totally makes sense to me, and I'm just yeah, I'm happy for anybody that could do it for sure. It's we ran, I guess on a similar vein, we ran some tournaments like back in the day. I ran some of them. It was like some of the most fun I had was organizing some of the tournaments. But those never had like a prize pool initially. Those were just for bragging rights.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just like, you won and you're the champion until the next tournament. And people just did it because people were racing all the time on Speedruns Live anyway. And it was just like a more organized version of that. And it was fun. Like there was one a few months and after I started in 2013, like right after, it was the first community tournament that I know about, at least for SMW. And it was a lot of fun. And so we just kind of kept going from there. And then now we're at the point where most, if not all, of our tournaments have some kind of prize pool, generally community funded, but some people are making money from winning tournaments
Mm-hmm.
whenever we have those. They're not very frequent, but even like our little like community tournaments have some kind of prize pool.
Yeah. All the tournaments I've been in, at least for like the games that I run, have always just been for fun. Like even more modern, because I know I won the Mario 1 Warpless tournament the last time it was had. I didn't get anything for that. And apparently, like, speed gaming got front page. It got 18,000 average viewers or something.
Wow.
Nothing for it, though. Very sad.
Sad. Yeah.
Sad.
No, it's good to see, and hopefully, and I mean, I don't mind just having a for fun tournament, like that's
Mm-hmm.
cool and all, but getting a little something extra is cool. Like I made like $100 or something from getting third place in a tournament a few years ago. It's like, okay, this is cool. Like this is nice. I like this.
Yeah, I'm not complaining per se. It's just like, dang.
Like, hey,
Just
yeah,
dang.
and it's definitely fair, and that kind of, I mean, it's definitely fair. Like to think about. And it's like, okay, maybe it would be cool if we could figure out some kind of prize pool. And then like with speed gaming, like they've been around for so long and they're just like such a well-known and integral part of the community that they wouldn't really have this problem. But you got to be careful who you accept sponsor money from nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a tournament a few years ago where like the main like sponsor running it totally like had no money.
Mm.
It was definitely just a total just disaster at the time. And they ended up like not doing any more events after that. Uh but you got to be careful, like, because as big as speedrunning is now, it's still tiny and exploitable by
Yeah.
the wrong person. Most of
Mm-hmm.
the people seem like they're the right people currently who I've seen do stuff, and I definitely haven't heard of any people like not getting prize pools from tourneys for years and years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it was something that I always think about because like we tried to finally like do like a mainstream kind of event, and it went so disastrously like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that
I,
I think that is kind of why we stuck to community prize pools after that.
yeah. I definitely remember a couple of people that tried to start tournaments with prize pool stuff, and they were sketchy and only did like one and then were out of it forever. I
Yeah,
at least have
and
two
that's kind of what
SMB1
it seems like.
stories, but I don't
Oh,
know how
I'm
many of
sure.
them were wherever else too.
Yeah, and they were like, I mean, we haven't really had that many issues. Like it's largely been fine for the most part. But I don't know. I like having the community prize pools and all that. And if we had like if the scene was more active and we had a big thing like SM64 has done a lot of their break the record stuff with GSA, and do it for charity. And then there have been some for I think prize pools and all that. And if we could do that, I'd do one of those. That would be cool for sure for whoever was playing the game at all. But It's just see what comes up. Community is, still running their own events, still lots of people grinding for top times. So I'm pretty happy with generally how things have gone and are going for SMW at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to get like all the big stuff going. So it's nice that like the community aspect's still there doing what they want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And SMW has always been very, very like tight community and still going pretty strong, so that's good.
Yeah. A lot of at least for Mario 1 because that's what I would do. There haven't been any huge tournaments recently. Like the Warpless ones kind of stopped and no one uses SRL anymore. Like
No,
just no
nobody.
one ever. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I forget. We switched to like Race Time GG or whatever it's
Mhm.
called a few years ago, and that was fine. I mean, I never really did that many races after we swapped. But SRL is super out. It's super out of date, or just
Mhm.
nobody uses it.
Yeah, kind of a shame. When I started, it was already dying off, but it was fun. But I mean, it was complicated. The whole like very old school way to set up everything was.
It was, yeah. I could go on forever about how terrible like the IRC system was for that website and everything, and in
Mhm.
general. But I mean, when I started, it was still huge. Like getting added to the SRL front page was a big milestone. When I got it, I was like, it's ecstatic. I was really happy when it's like, okay, sweet, I finally showed up on SRL. I can get more viewers from there and actually, be on the front page of the website and all that.
Yeah, don't you just show up there if you have speedrunning in your title or something? Or do you have to have an account?
Nowadays, maybe.
Oh.
Back in the day, it was like very. You had to get. I think I'm not sure if it was automatic or manually, but you had to get like whitelisted, and it was based on
Hmm.
I think how many races you were doing, or maybe how often you were streaming. There's like a whole process to actually getting on there. It wasn't like automatic with like the whole that like it is nowadays.
I see.
Uh, there's a whole like you're allowed on the SRL. Finally, you made the whitelist.
I didn't know it was so selective.
Oh yeah, it was huge. I was very excited when I got that back in the day.
Yeah, because I know, yeah, I see a lot of no SRL. You have to like put that in your title so you wouldn't show up if you weren't speedrunning or they'd get mad or something.
Yeah, so that I think was always a thing. I don't think they had automatic like addition, like where if you had speedrunning in your title, it would add you. I think it was always just like no SRL or you would be on the front page.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, they would get mad at you if you weren't actually speedrunning. But is even besides that, yeah, you had to get added to some whitelist. It wasn't like a huge, like super exclusive thing or anything, but you had to have some amount of experience speedrunning and do races and all that. So it was like a good milestone to hit and be like, okay, that's a good step.
It's interesting how it was all selective back then. At least I don't
Yeah.
think I had to. I think I was just put on there automatically. I would like look and I was like, oh, yep, there I am because I have speedrunning in my title. But maybe not because I feel like it'd be really like maybe you have to have an account too.
Yeah, you definitely also have to have an account for sure. But it was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's impossible to find any channel anywhere on Twitch because there's
So many of
12
them.
billion streamers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, and Twitch still doesn't have any good way to find people.
Nah. I do my best through like game directories, but that's really it.
Yeah, I usually find everyone I care about through the grapevine or Twitter's, YouTube, whatever. Twitch has never been helpful for me in that way.
No, and like on the side, they started doing like this recommended channels thing on the side, but those are pretty much just the same channels for me every single day, or ones
Mm-hmm.
that I've already watched before and like just didn't follow. So that's not really helping me at all.
Other for me, there's always like one like big hot tub streamer or something, and I've never watched one of those streams before in my life, so I don't know why they're recommending it.
Yeah, it doesn't give you what would actually be a recommended channel, like in the way that the YouTube algorithm is actually getting pretty decent at giving you videos you want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch is not there yet.
Yeah. I also get like streamers I follow's alts. It's like, well,
Oh
I'm
yeah, I
already
get that
following
too.
them. So
Yeah.
it's like,
I do like, I mean, I don't know when they added it. There's like the viewers of this channel also watch
mm-hmm,
these other channels, which is at least like more accurate, or at least has a decent chance of me finding other streamers that do the same thing and I might actually want to watch. Like right now on your stream, I've got, let's see, three channels. One of them I've never heard of, but then the other two are Rupert and Shiny Zenny, who both I've watched before and I know do speedrunning content. And it's
mm-hmm,
like, okay, maybe I'll go watch Rupert's stream. It's been a while. And that
mm-hmm.
feature I like. If they just keep developing like that or just make the recommended channels better, I think it would be good.
Yeah. Well, you also have to assume people check on that ever. Because of
Yeah.
course they hide it under your follow list.
Yeah. I remember when they added, so if you got a gift sub to a channel, it would be above your following list.
Hmm.
Uh Even if you didn't follow them. And thank God they got rid of that feature, but that was terrible when they added that. I was such not a fan of that.
Yeah, I've never seen that, so wow,
It,
that's
it was
funny.
very brief, and I think it must have been a beta test, but I was like, do not, please do not do this. I think what it was it was like a subscribed channels section.
Hmm.
So it did have people you actually subscribe to, but it didn't like exclude gift subs. So there's just
Okay.
random streams I'd never heard of before at the top of my following list. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want this. I don't want people to be able to like buy follows for their
Yeah,
channel.
that's interesting. Yeah, I
Thankfully,
I
they
like
didn't
the
do
idea
that.
of like us people I have chosen to subscribe to tab.
Yeah,
That
that
seems
I don't
pretty
mind
good,
as
but
much.
yeah, the
That's
gift
like
sub.
fine.
Mm-mm. No, 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 no.
Yeah,
That's pay to
just
win. No thanks.
yeah, yeah. I was so not a fan of that.
Oh.
But I mean, now I haven't seen it for a while. Maybe they like stopped the beta test, but there was that thing where you could like boost your stream and like have
Mm-hmm.
it show up in the sidebar. And I think that was pay to win also, but that was
Yeah.
in like beta test a few
Well,
months ago, I
like
think.
your viewers could pay for it for you. Like instead of a gift
Yeah,
sub, they like advertise your. I don't know. I don't know about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. Twitch is so bad at the money part of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. Like just go back to how it was where people get PayPal donations and bits don't exist and
Hmm.
and all that.
Well, they need to
That
just stop taking such a huge cut of it. That's what
yeah, and they won't.
they
They
won't. No, they've said multiple times that they won't. So.
nope. Yeah, so use the use the donation link, don't use bits. But
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, no bits at all. So like you could just Twitch wasn't taking any money. And apparently, I mean, I never had like a better deal or anything, but they were definitely more generous with like the better sub split thing that they were giving to people.
Mm-hmm.
It was apparently much easier to get that a while ago, even like a few years ago. And now they're just like so not for anything but 50-50 sub split.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's, saying we should probably get more.
Yep. God, I could. That's another thing I could rant about for an hour is just Twitch.
Twitch everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just so hard to. It's all complicated and ugh. They
Yeah,
always push out
it's
weird
I never wanted to
features
think
that.
about any of that.
Yeah.
The algorithm is scary and complicated, and I don't understand it for anything.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, and I mean it's easier for a lot of sites than it is for Twitch, but Twitch is just a complete nightmare.
Mm-hmm. So, how many GDQs have you been to?
How many GDQs have I been to? That's a good question. I think around 10 of them. I've
Oh,
been
okay.
in one, two. I've been in four of them.
Wow.
Uh, I think I've been to 10 or 11. I've been to every in-person one since I started going, at least for part of the week. So
Wow.
that's like every GDQ, including and since SGDQ 2015, that was in person, I was at for at least part of the week.
That's some
Uh,
dedication. That's what
yeah,
I've
I
tried
mean,
to do.
it was always great. I mean, it was like, especially when I was back in high school, it's like I'm leaving school to go, hang out with friends, and then after that, it was like I don't know, you looked forward to it a lot. It was really the only place you could actually go to meet people and like that were speed running, and I was just like the place to be. Like I
Mhm.
met Cheese at GDQ like way early on, and that was just crazy and all. And I mean, like nowadays it's less so. Like you can see the current GDQ isn't like filled up on registration at all, where it used to
Mhm.
fill up in 3 seconds,
Well,
and
part of that
people
is
get
like the
mad
whole
that they.
COVID restrictions making it a little more harder.
Yeah,
Although,
that's definitely a huge part of it. But even
mhm,
like before then, it seems like, people were going less, or like just different people were going. You kind of cycle in and out of GDQs.
maybe.
Like, nowadays it's still great to go to GDQ, and I'm still planning on going
Mhm.
to this next one for at
I'm
least a
in
little
it
bit.
somehow, so woo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wait, one-handed, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't thank God I said, like I put in, like, donation incentive because I would not have gone in otherwise. That must have enticed them, like, "Oh, good idea. Money."
Yeah, good luck. Uh, yeah, no, it was I'm planning on going to the next one, but it almost seems like, you hit a point where you go to a lot of GDQs and then it's like, I wish everyone just like I wish there was a GDQ, but with only the people that I wanted to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because way back in the day, it was, I guess, smaller. It was still pretty big, but it was smaller to where you pretty much knew everyone that was there
Mhm.
if they'd been to GDQ before, and like I would recognize the overwhelming majority of people who were there, at least just from like a face basis, even if I didn't know who they were. And it got like bigger and bigger and bigger. And then now it's like, okay, this is like actually kind of a convention at this point. It's not like a big one, but it's an actual event instead of like a meetup. And you lost a lot of like just that meetup vibe, which is what was so fun about it to begin with. Just like shitting around with friends for a week.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's still, I mean, it's still fun. But that kind of it's crazy to see how big GDQ got, and I mean, I don't know, they're doing like so well nowadays, and just running like these crazy events and making millions of dollars every time. It's a lot different than how it was. At least at scale back, at SGDQ 2015, which was tiny, tiny.
How many people do you think were there?
God, few hundred.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 1,000. I was only there
Mm.
for the last part of that one, but it was so small. Like, the practice room was tiny, stream room was tiny, hotel was, like, weird in the middle of nowhere.
That was before, like, the DoubleTree in Minneapolis?
Yeah, that was the last one, I think, before that was the last one before the DoubleTree in Minneapolis. Or actually, no, 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 no. It was the last one that wasn't, I think, in downtown Minneapolis, really.
Mhm.
That one, 15 was still in St. Paul.
Mhm.
Uh And then 16 was in like downtown, 17 was in downtown. I think 18 was also in downtown. And then they moved to the Doubletree at some point, which was nice in like Bloomington, which is a good venue and I like it. And like AGDQ's moved, a couple times as well. It's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, the first one I went to was SGDQ 2018, that was at the DoubleTree,
Yeah,
so
that was actually 20. I think that was the big Kaizo one. I can't remember if that was 18 or 19,
Kaizo.
but
Hmm.
19 might have been the big Kaizo one. But 18, that double tier the DoubleTree ones were all great.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
all those GDQs were fantastic. Even the one I was at last year for 5 seconds was really, it was still fun, and that, had some of the COVID restrictions still, but I still had a good time, and, like, obviously still a good location and food and everything, and a good marathon as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that this year they're moving it.
Yeah, I think they're going back to the same place they were at for, like, 16,
Really?
uh,
I guess their, like,
which
contract ended.
yeah, it's a shame. Like, I think most people like the DoubleTree, but
Oh, yeah.
the Hilton one that like we're gonna be at was fine. Like the SGDQ 2017 venue was awful, and that was the worst. It's the only time I've been to a GDQ, and it's like this venue is awful. Like this
Hmm.
venue sucks and is actively making the event worse. So I'm just glad they didn't go back there.
Yeah. I mean, the one problem I have with the DoubleTree was there's, like, nothing nearby. Like,
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
mean, there's, like, your
Uh,
Fridays and your Burger King and Dairy Queen, like, I think a Jimmy John's and a pizza, taco. That's about it though.
Yeah, I mean, I liked all those places like Taco Libre, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but and you can always get Dairy Queen every meal every day for an entire week.
I wouldn't
But
recommend it, but you
I get
can.
it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it. But yeah, I mean, that's always like the GDQ experiences. It's way better if you have a car and you can go
Mm-hmm.
wherever you want
Yeah.
because they like never. I mean, there's never anything like super in the area. Like at the early AGDQs, they'd bring food trucks in, which was pretty
Mm,
cool.
interesting.
And they just like pull up to the front of the Hilton and you'd get whatever. And that was like decent, but and because that one really was like in the middle of nowhere, but they haven't really done that since. It's kind of like just find food in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember like before COVID happened, like the cap was 3,000 or whatever, but it would fill up in like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I
I
do
every
remember.
single time I'd mark it on my calendar and like be refreshing the page because it's like if I don't do this, I'm not going to go to the event.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you'd see people who are like, "Oh my god, I literally got here at like the time of sign up and still couldn't get in." Which I guess is good that's not happening anymore, but
Yeah.
and I remember when like the site used to just break in general every
Hmm.
time when people would refresh it, and that doesn't really seem to happen as much anymore. But it was crazy to sign up for all that.
Yeah. I was always so stressed about it every time because I said my first one was SGDQ 2018. I tried to go to everyone after that because I enjoyed it so much the first time. I didn't go to
Nice.
like SGDQ 2019. I think is the only one I missed because I had to go to a wedding or something. But yeah, the
Yeah,
events are
I
just
I
too
mean, I
fun
felt
to
the same
miss out
way.
on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I went to every single one in person after my first one for at least part of it. I definitely felt the same way. I mean, there's nothing really like it that we've got for the speedrunning community, but in general, like it's just to hang out with your friends
Hmm.
and just party for a week, just do speedrunning stuff and forget about everything else.
I feel like people that don't like go to the event itself just think, oh, you hang out in the stream room for a week? Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hear that
you're
all the
never in
time.
there.
Yeah, no, I hear that all the time. It's like, no, I don't think I've ever been in the stream room for longer than like 2 runs.
Hmm.
Like, I've watched like, yeah, well, probably watched on average like 2 or 3 runs per event. And then, maybe at like 5 in the morning when I'm wandering around, I'll sit there for whatever garbage game they have at 5 in the morning. Just like garbage 5 minute Game Boy game.
Yeah, the
It's like,
awful
okay, this is
block.
kind of cool.
Always fun
Yeah,
time.
awful block, or whatever it was. I mean, that's it's cool to just like kind of wander in sometimes and see what's going on. But other than that, no, it's like the stream room is for like you people not at the event. Like the stream room is for you guys watch it online.
Hmm.
We're we're here for the rest of the event, and because I wanted to go meet up with people I've been only talking to online, like up until the first GDQ I went to.
Hmm. Yep. How many GDQs did you say you were in?
Four. I was
Wow.
in AGDQ 16, SGDQ 16, SGDQ 17, and SGDQ 19.
SGQ 17, can I guess you were in the relay?
I was in the relay. I
Hmm.
was I was the anchor for our team, and we won. So it was great. That's the most fun I've ever had at a GDQ is doing that relay. That
Hmm.
was unbelievable. And like, I mean, obviously winning made it a little bit better, but that was just so much fun.
What team were you then?
Team Boom Boom. We were
Mm,
the blue team.
okay. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
no, it was
because
trying
I
to
know
remember.
most of
It
the
was
people that were Resnor, but I know some of the. What was the other team?
There was Birdo. There's Birdo,
Birdo.
Resnor, and
Birdo
Boom
was
Boom.
red. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, my team, I was on Team Boom Boom with Karua,
Mm,
Raikou Rider, uh, Just Defend, I think.
mm,
And yeah, but Karua was our captain and like the SMB 3 runner, and he's
mm-hmm.
like an all-time legend. So when he picked me like in the draft or whatever, I was like, let's go. And it was just a great experience. And the SMW runners were Aaron was on Team Resnor and Dots was on Team Birdo, I think. And that just, I mean, being up there and just ending the whole race with those two was really fun. It's just like looking over and everyone's having a good time. I'm like, fist bumping Aaron and Dots throughout the run. Like, this is just it's just a good experience for sure.
Yeah, the relay is definitely like that was before my time, but God, I wish they would have another thing like that. I've actually been trying to set one up again, but it's so hard
Yeah,
with the whole COVID
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know about nowadays, but since the relay, I feel like we've talked, or at least I've like talked at least a couple times a year about we should do another one of
Mm-hmm.
those because it was so much fun, and I don't think there's been one since then
Mm-hmm.
for the 2D Mario games
I
that
think
I
we
could even
even talked
remember.
about it last SGDQ
We
because
probably
I've talked
did.
about it to Supersonic and like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
trying to
yeah. He
figure
was,
it out.
yeah, he was in that too.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Like it's definitely merits another one, and they really don't seem like they do that many relay style things at a GDQ, but
Not
the ones
anymore,
they've
no.
done, the ones they've done have been great. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I mean, out of all the runs I did at a GDQ, that was the most fun, and that was the most memorable one.
Mm-hmm. What I see now is either like I mean, the Kaiser Ramak ones are cool because it's so custom, but I'll see a lot of like make or Mario Maker 2 now. And like if you die, you like do the whole rotation thing. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
quite the same, but I feel like that's like all they do in terms of like a team kind of thing.
Yeah, I think maybe there was like a Mega Man one kind of recently, but yeah, no, they have like their bi-yearly Kaizo and Mario Maker 2 blind level races
Hmm.
that are, I guess, they are kind of a relay, but like not really because it's just
Yeah,
switching off every death.
like it's
And they're
cool,
fun,
but
but like,
that's like the relay now, and it's like it's not really a relay though. Like it's
yeah,
cool,
and
but
it's blind too. So
hmm
it's like I want people to do like an actual relay race of a game they play, like
hmm
like the Mario relay was. Like blind level, like all the blind level stuff is crazy, and like seeing how much skill it takes to go in and just smash through a level that fast. But it's different than like, I guess, executing a run you've done a billion times before.
hmm yeah. I hope as like the whole COVID thing gets better and more people start going to events more, they'll have more chances for stuff like that
Yeah,
again.
I hope so too.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been trying. I think it was after like HDQ 2020, people started talking like, "Oh, we should try to get another relay in." And then of course, that's when COVID started. So it's like, well, time to wait 3 years.
Yeah, hopefully people will start going. I definitely think submissions as a whole have been kind of like down since then, and just because like attendance has been down in general. Like I can't even remember the last vanilla SMW run that was at a GDQ.
hmm
Like shockingly, I think it might be the one I did at SGDQ 2019, but that seems impossible.
I was gonna say, I mean, I got in with Mario 1. Something must be going on. Like that doesn't happen. That's not normal.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was a vanilla SFW submission for like this SGDQ coming up. I scanned, like maybe one came in, but I was like scanning the submission list and it's like I don't see one.
hmm
Uh and a
Surprised
lot of,
Mario
yeah, like
3
it's a
didn't get
lot of
in for
that.
like the first time in years.
Yeah, it's we're in a drought right now for a 2D Mario at GDQs. And I think I saw SM64 got in, but it would might have just been
It was
randomizer for
just
this
a like
one.
a nonstop rando, I think. Something like
Yeah,
that.
something like
It was
that. And
definitely
I
a
saw
rando.
also, yeah, and I saw also, like Majora's Mask got in with, I think, a rando and not the base game,
Mm, like
which is, I think, kind of interesting
like
because apparently they did have actual submissions of the base game, which, I mean,
hmm
and maybe they did for SM64 too, but SFW, at least it's like I just don't think anybody submitted it.
yeah. There's not a lot of like active Mario World runners nowadays, I don't think, that aren't like in Japan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, out of like the range of the people who are in range of actually going to a GDQ, there's not many.
hmm
So like, we've, fortunately we've had some Japanese runners and some Brazilian runners and South American runners go to GDQs over the years and meet them, but not many.
hmm
Like Calco made a GDQ a few years ago, or maybe a couple, and that was cool. And Pagyo came in from Japan a couple times, and that was great. But it's just not. It's just such a far trip for anybody that's not in America.
So far, so expensive. It's-
Yeah,
Like,
and
it needs to be worth
yeah,
it.
for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, it'd almost be like just go to GDQ for a week and like do something else in America for another week to make it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you're going that far, yeah. But out of like American runners, like there's definitely still people like I'll see in the directory and people do races and everything, but nobody I think that's actually submitting for the most part to GDQs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is just crazy how different it's been. Like even for me, how different it's become. Although I guess COVID is still just such a big factor in a lot of the differences, but I can only imagine how different it was back when you started going.
Yeah, it really was a lot different. I mean, you knew pretty much everyone there and you it was smaller. It was just smaller and the actual like not marathon stuff I think has always been the same with like everybody having hotel room parties every night for a week straight. That's always been the one consistent factor at GDQs. But I mean, even back in the day, there was like not a board game room or any of that. It was just we're gonna go play board games in like the hotel dining room or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't actually have space for those things, which is cool. They have now, and like they have panels, and there was kind of a Smash room, but it was not like officially the Smash room, and it was just like some in the corner of like the hotel in the basement. There was like the turning room and the Smash room, and now those are a much bigger part of the actual event.
Yep. I've definitely been in the Smash room and it's full of people. They
Every time a
can't.
Smash room is packed
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and I mean I love Smash, so I'm cool with it. But yeah, back then it was just like a small little part of the hotel.
Just a little corner for the sweaty Smash players.
Yeah, yep. And then yeah, just board games wherever you could possibly sit down. No board game room, just wherever you could find a table.
So, what hotel was that at?
That
Like
was at
closer to
the
downtown?
Hilton Dulles was the AGDQs.
Oh yeah.
SGDQ was at like the downtown Hilton in Minneapolis. I forget what it's actually called. I think that might just be it. And then one year it was the terrible one, SGDQ 2017, was at like the downtown Marriott
Mm.
in Minneapolis, which was never go back there for an event. It was so bad.
So the event where that cool uh relay was at
Worst
was the
hotel, yeah,
bad hotel. Okay.
worst hotel by far was the Relay Hotel. No, it was like everything was super far away from each other in the hotel even, and just super like limited in general. There was some you could only like get to the practice room going up one specific escalator in one part of the hotel.
Hmm.
It was like just a really weird layout in general. And all the event spaces were like kind of small for the most part too, and it was just a bad venue for that kind of event. Uh but no, that was the relay GDQ. That was the actual, stuff I was doing was pretty fun. But that venue, I'm glad they moved to DoubleTree.
Okay, so SGU 2018 was the first one at that DoubleTree then?
I want to say yes. They might have gone somewhere else for one year, but I think that was the first one at the DoubleTree.
Yeah, that was my
Actually, yeah.
first one, so I just assumed it was always there, I guess.
Oh, no, yeah. So if that was at the DoubleTree, then yes, that was the first one there.
Okay. Yeah, I can confirm it was at there. I just didn't know if it was the first time it was there.
Yep, it was. And then I guess next year was I guess since then they've been there every year. Uh,
Yes. Yeah. Well, until this year,
but
but
yeah, until this year. But yeah, that this year I think is the venue from SGDQ 16. I think. And I mean, it used to be in Denver before that, and it was
mm,
in St. Paul, and then before that, it was in Denver, which I never went to any of those, but
hmm,
that'd be a lot. That'd be pretty fun.
yeah.
But I don't mind Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to go to the same place you're used to. Well, at least when it's the same hotel. Now I don't know what it's going to be like because AGDQ, when I started going, was at a different place every year, which
Yeah,
made it
they
hard.
really bounced around so much for AGDQ. The first couple years, it was at like that same Hilton Dulles Airport, whatever, and I think they might have even gone back there once after, but they
Hmm.
kind of moved around a bit for a few of them.
Yeah, the first one I went to was at the Murder Hallway one, and they were
Oh
only
yeah,
there for
I
1 year that year, and
yeah,
then
they
they
were
were
there for
suddenly in
1 year.
Orlando. It's like, well,
Yeah, I
that's
remember the
different.
murder hallway.
You can't forget the murder hallway.
No, that was spooky and scary.
I liked their like stream room and practice room that year though. They were so
Oh
big
yeah,
and
that was good.
fancy.
Yeah, that was a good one for all that. And it was a terrible venue, but yeah, they just kept moving and moving. And I liked the Florida venue, honestly.
Hmm.
Like that AGDQ was pretty fun.
No, that was a good venue, just unfortunately not a good location for
No,
many
no.
reasons.
Yeah, for many reasons. I
Hmm.
guess some people got to go to Universal and Disney and that was cool,
Yeah,
but
that was cool.
no, I liked the hotel and the weather for sure.
No,
I mean, like AGDQ and Dulles, like, we're leaving. I think it was the one with the murder hallway. We're leaving in like the middle of a snowstorm
oh
and
yep, yep,
just,
I remember that. I missed my
just,
flight
just terrible.
because of the snow. It
It was,
stopped the
yeah,
subway from getting to the airport, and I had to take a
God.
bus or something. And then I was like an hour late because I had to unexpectedly take a bus instead of the train.
Yeah, that sucks. That was. I'm glad we didn't have to deal with that in Florida. Florida was just like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, go to the airport and like just go through security in 5 seconds, and then you're there, and you don't have to worry about any flights getting delayed.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that sucked about that one was transportation from the hotel and airport. Like at SGDQs, they had the shuttles, and then at AGDQ 2019 that I was at had the metro, and it went right to the hotel. But there you had to find some other means of transportation.
Yeah, I like carpooled an Uber for that one with a
Hmm.
couple people from Ohio. We were also flying down with for GDQ.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun venue though. I remember it fondly. But
Yeah,
and
I think they should have all GDQs in warm locations.
yeah, so as it's not too far away, I don't want to pay $2,000 to get there.
Oh yeah, true, true.
So what other events did you run at? We've talked about the relay a lot.
Yeah, so I did a all castles three-way race at SGDQ 16 with Aaron and Brams, or I guess Area 51 and Brams, which was fun. That was a good. We were actually on commentary for that. I did my previous one at AGDQ 16 was a 96 exit four-way race with Kakusho, X Paco, and Akisto. I think were the three people, and that was fun, but like we were just up there. We had like an all-star couch and they were doing good commentary, but I didn't really get to do anything except play the
Play the
game
game.
and I did
Yeah.
pretty meh.
Hmm.
And then for that next SGDQ when we got in with the three-way all castles race, that was the most fun besides the relay one. It was just me, Aaron, and Brams just shitting it up on the mic for 35 minutes and just having a good time. And that was like at the height of when we were all streaming a ton and like doing weekly races and just constantly talking. So it was like a good thing.
Hmm.
And then besides that, I did a three-way 96 race at SGDQ 19 with TNT and Seathorn. And that one I did not do well at all, but it was still fun. And like, I was just happy to be playing 96 again. But that was like a GDQ. I showed up halfway through the week. It was like, okay, I got to do this run. And I like blew one level really badly to where it just ruined the entire run. And other than that, it was like fine. But all the runs were good and they were all fun. And I would definitely, recommend if you're trying to do a GDQ run to like anyone, just do it. Like I would say it's like it was not obviously it's not just easy like just to get in or whatever, but I would say it's worth not giving up on and
Hmm.
like just really trying to get in one because it is a super one of a kind experience. And just I mean, you're really just up there in front of a live audience, which for most people on Twitch, you're not. You're just in your room like
Hmm.
we are now, just speed running in front of a television, and maybe an online audience, but doing it in person is just such a different feel.
Hmm. When I got
And
into SGQ 2020, that was like the first one I got into, and that was the first online one. I was like, oh, this is the only one I'm gonna get in, and you weren't on a stage. I was in a race, so like there were no cameras or anything. It was just my gameplay and then commentators. So it was like So this is how I'm gonna get in, huh? Most boring way. But thank
Yeah, the
God for
online
this one.
GDQs were fun, but now you're well, you were a backup button holder for
I was a
Dots and
backup button
Seth,
holder.
and now you're doing your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna be like, oh, thank God Seth asked me to do this because it's like my only time I'm gonna be on stage. But I guess I
no,
lucked out this one, so I guess we're
no, you
good.
got it. You got it. You're gonna kill it. You're gonna kill it for sure. And I
I'm gonna
mean,
kill
yeah,
my
everyone loves
hand.
Mario at GDQs.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill my hand. That's 20 minutes of just pure cramping. But it's for charity.
You gotta watch Andrew G's video from God, I don't even remember what GDQ that was at, where he just started juggling in his one hand while playing in his other hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does
You should
that.
do that.
I can juggle, but not as well as him. I I I'd have to do only two balls with one hand, and I don't think I could manage that. If someone gave me them, I could do maybe a throwback, like in between levels. I could do it, but not like during.
Yeah,
That's a bit
that
too
was really
complicated.
something. That was really something special. And
Andrew's
really
such a
just
show
totally random.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you met him at a event?
Andrew G very briefly.
Mm.
Yeah. And I mean he's the OG,
Mm-hmm.
as old as classic as they come. And it was cool to get to meet him. And like Cosmic,
Yeah.
and just like these people who I've been watching since the beginning. And Mitch, well,
Mm-hmm.
I met Mitch like super early on in going to GDQs.
Mm.
It's like it's so cool to meet these people. And I nowadays, I mean, I'm sure that's like the most relatable part that like transfers throughout the years is meeting all these people, not just like your friends, but meeting the streamers that is like, wow, I mean, I've been watching you online for years and now I finally get to see you in person and just like you're a real person.
Mm-hmm. It's nice because
And just
sometimes like the people you meet at those events that you just watch, you like become friends because you hung out at the week or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. I made plenty of friends at GDQs. I mean, a lot of it, mostly it is people who I like knew ahead of time, but I've
Mm-hmm.
definitely met some cool people at GDQs that I still talk to and am friends with. And it's just I mean, that's another good thing. Like a lot of it, like I said, is you're just chilling with the people that you came to hang out with. But if you end up like in another person's room, or if like you just one person tags along for food or whatever, you just end up gradually meeting everyone at the event,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to actually have some I guess good experiences with new people you didn't know it all even existed before.
Yeah. It's definitely good. Like, you go there to meet all the people you know, but I mean, it's definitely a good thing to like meet all these people you don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I met so many people at GDQs,
Mm-hmm.
and even besides just like the ones where it's like, okay, I watch their stream and I know they're gonna be there, so I really want to say hi. Even beyond that, you just meet so many cool people.
Yeah. Um, I brought this up like every interview I've done, but have you seen the Twitter thing with like the speedrunning pills of different colors?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I chose the if you could have any of these cool speedrun things, I of course chose the go to events for free. Like that's all I want to do. That's the thing I care about most.
That I yeah, as far as that goes, for sure, I agree. I mean, it's so tough going to everything you really want to,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Stupid
making that
money.
happen. Spending all that money just to like go and do that. And like, I mean, I started, like I said, I started when I was 15. I'm don't have any money. I'm broke.
Yeah.
Uh, and I found a way, and like through the stream, I found a way to make it, and like that was great. And beyond that, though, it's like I'm just some dumb kid and unemployed and going to college eventually. Once it was a few years, but I mean, it's like whatever I need to do to make this happen. Like I'm gonna make it happen. This is what I've been looking forward to for since the last event.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely how I started going to them. I was in college, unemployed, no money, but I just win anyway. Fuck it.
It's worth it.
Yeah. It is worth it. Always worth it.
It's Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I guess yeah, I'm still going
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, like 10 years later.
Yep.
I guess it's only been like 8 years since my first GDQ I went to, but
And you had a COVID break from having to go in person, so
yeah, COVID break. And the online GDQs are, I guess, like a good filler. I did some commentary for one of them, but it's not the same.
It's
It's
not the
just not
same,
the
but it's
same.
good that they can still do it.
Yeah.
It's good for all the
I
people
hope
that
I hope
can't
they bring
go
a GDQ.
too, so they can showcase remotely since they couldn't go
Yeah,
in
I
person.
like I like the hybrid runs too. I mean, it's definitely I think they are definitely missing something compared to an on-site run, but
Mhm.
I don't really yeah, it's not like I have a problem with them. It's a little different, but it's cool that people who can't go get to actually do something in the
Mhm.
marathon. Because like
Yeah.
I mean, we're just saying, how do you make it worth it if you're international and it's just in Minnesota in the middle of nowhere, America, and you got to pay $1 billion just to go to a speedrunning event.
Yeah. Definitely hard for international folk. I'm glad they have their own options and stuff too. Sometimes.
Yeah, like I mean, have you ever been to any other marathons? Like I would
I've been
like
to
to go to like an
Pace,
ESA.
but I've never been out of the country to an event, at least.
Yeah, I'd like to do ESA eventually for sure, or just anything. I was thinking about doing Pace, but I don't think it's gonna work out this year.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a tournament I'm in there, so
oh nice,
I have to
nice.
go.
Oh, nice. And I did Calithon once. Wow, I don't think that's They officially like said it's not happening
Yeah,
anymore, which is sad.
that's
But
over now.
yeah, Calithon was. I really enjoyed Calithon the one time I did it. That was a totally different. Like that was the exact opposite of GDQs. That was like a tiny event. Like there was like maybe 75 or 100 people there total, and I knew a good amount of them. But it's like this is so different. And we were just in like the direct relief charity like headquarters building where they were streaming, and it was so different. It was just like a nice chill marathon where it was only a couple days and I was on spring break anyway. So I was like, okay, let's go to California. And I ran 96 for that marathon and just generally had a good time.
Yeah, it sounds like I feel like the smaller events, like obviously GDQ's fun because you get to hang out with a bunch of people and meet a bunch of new people, but I like the smaller events just because it's more like tight knit and it's easier to just go out and do stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that's really like the good part, or I guess yeah, the hard part nowadays is like it's hard to go out and like just get dinner if at this point, your group's like 25 people. Like, back in the day, SMW, you could conceivably do, and we did do like SMW dinners at GDQ with like the entire community of like, 20 or 25 people. And then now it's like if you try to do an SMW dinner with everyone there who like would go if they could, you couldn't do it. It's like 100
Got to rent
people.
out the
Like,
whole restaurant.
yeah, if you see like the Kaizo photo from whatever GDQ that was, SGDQ 18 or 19, I think there's 150 people in that photo.
Oh my god.
It's like I'm a small speck in that photo somewhere out of just there's so many people here that are just like Kaizo people. And it's just you really can't do that much anymore.
Yeah, no.
But I like that. And I mean Calithon was like a smaller event, but I've also done like I would say just meetups with streams, and those might have been the most fun. Like back when back towards the end of high school, I mean, there's a bunch of SMW runners in like the Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania area. And so we would do a bunch of meetups in like Columbus or just like hang out at, Dots or PJ's house and like just do a 96 co-op stream. Like me, Brams, Dots, and PJ would always just hang out every few months and do like some kind of stream there. I've been to my buddy Dusler had a marathon at his house. So it was just like a weekend at his house with a bunch of his friends, just speedrunning whatever game they had. And those kind of meetups are really, they're different, but that's like all the really good stuff. And just doing nothing with friends and just doing like a special stream or whatever you want to do it for your stream. It's not really a marathon, but
Hmm.
just having fun.
Yeah. I wish, as far as I know, no one I know very well, and I know like a bunch of people, surprisingly, but no one I know lives near me, so I can't like go out and do that, unfortunately. The closest
Well, what
person I
area are
know
you
very
in?
well is like 7 hours.
Yeah, where are you at roughly?
St. Louis, I'd say.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no one wants to be there, and true. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't
Yeah,
here
no,
either. Don't worry.
that's yeah, no, I it's middle of nowhere, and like I worked
Mm-hmm.
right by there for like the field that I'm in just works in the middle of nowhere for everything, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to it, and I live in the middle of nowhere now for work. It's you get used to it, and you drive a little bit further just to hang out with people, but
Yeah. I mean, I'll make that 7 hour drive that I know I can make, but everyone else is like a day away. Especially
yeah,
most people I know are like on the West Coast. It's like I can't easily get there. And
no,
the one time I
like all the
recently tried to
California
travel to
people.
meet someone, my plane like fucked up everything, so I couldn't do it. So it's like,
Oh
well,
yeah, wait, I saw you tweeting about that kind
mm-hmm,
of. That's terrible.
mm-hmm. But we
Terrible.
don't need to. That's another
No.
thing I could rant an hour about. So I have so many
Yeah.
rants in me, but that's not what this is for.
Yeah, but I guess like on that topic, I've spent like pretty much most of my school breaks since going on Twitch, flying or having someone fly to visit me from Twitch. Like it's such just it's such like I don't know, just a cool thing that I think that I could go to, most cities and like kind of at least know somebody there. But that I've spent so much time with people that I only knew because I started speedrunning Super Mario World. Like I mean, just yeah, I spend like all my breaks just doing that or having people like come visit me in college, people come visit me at home, go, across the country to California, go visit people in New York. Like it's really easy almost to connect with people because you know that at the very like base level you have like this super specific hobby in common. Like speedrunning is super 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 specific.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're like, oh, okay, you're already into Super Mario World speedrunning or whatever it may be, that's already a pretty good connection point
Mm-hmm.
for any of that. It's like you're into similar things as me because you found this hyper specific thing.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that most people that get into speedrunning are very like-minded.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
for sure. It's just something about how it works out with whatever speedrunning is and like what would make somebody want to do it
mm-hmm.
at all, I think. It just works out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've never met, well, personally, I've never met someone I've hated through speedrunning. I know there is the occasional bad apple, but there hasn't really been that I know of personally.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there's been like, I mean, I've been around for 10 years. There's been a couple people,
Of
but
course,
they're
yeah.
like, such the small minority of
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like, most people are just the most chill and super, like, I guess the super passionate people. Like, they're all really into, even if it's not their speed run at this point, since, it's been a few years, they're just into similar things, whether that be, retro gaming or anything else. It's just a like-minded group of people for the most part, and GDQs is kind of like that's where everyone got connected, and now you go back to like everyone's kind of knows who they want to hang out with, and so you'll see them at GDQs, but you'll have these meetups outside of events.
Mm-hmm. And you have your circles that usually hang out at GDQs too. They can kind of
Yeah.
intertwine, but you'll see like the groups of people, and you can kind of usually figure out, oh, they're for that game, and there's that game group, and there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you definitely know. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Banjo Kazooie people are the ones throwing all the crazy parties.
Mm. Makes sense.
It does. You really learn who is who over the years.
Yep. You have like any fun GDQ stories outside the like being on the live stream?
On the live stream for that, I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, one thing like just strictly GDQ related that I liked that they were doing was panels. So
Mm-hmm.
they never had anything like that for the first few GDQs I was at. Then I think it was SGDQ 18. They said, "Hey, we're having panels. Like, so if you have a topic you want to talk about for like an hour, like submit it, and we'll do something, and maybe you could have a panel." And so I was like, okay, this sounds kind of cool. I mean, I won't get in, but I'll submit a panel. And so I submitted it was called like the Art of Kaizo ROM Hacking panel with me, Panga, Grand Pooh Bear, and Glitch Cat.
Mm.
And it actually ended up getting in, shockingly. And so
Shockingly,
I
makes
I
sense
was
to
like
me.
running around. What? Sorry.
I said shockingly. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that that made it.
I was like shockingly, there's no way. It's like no way anybody wants to hear what I have to say about Kaizo ROM hacking and what anybody wants to say about Kaizo ROM hacking. But I was running around that whole week ahead of time, printing out like itineraries for the panel and like thinking about what are we gonna do, like how are we gonna plan this out, like what does the panel room look like. And it actually ended up going really well. Like I gave everyone, just like I said, just some like base sheet of, okay, this is like roughly what I want to talk about in roughly the order I want to talk about it. And we actually had they hooked up to the projector. Glitch Cat just had like a little tablet and he was just kind of designing a Kaizo level on the screen as we were talking and messing around, which I thought was pretty cool. But it ended up being like it ended up going super well. Like we had a full room and people were super into it and actually asked like a bunch of questions about Kaiser ROM hacking. And I mean, we that hour or whatever it was flew by so fast. And all those things are just, I mean, great. I like that GDQ is doing things like event like,
Hmm.
even if it's like the event's a little bit different, but they're doing things that are actually eventy and trying new stuff. And I know people do, like, for the panels, people do like game show ones, which I think is a great idea. And
Yeah, I was on
honestly,
Big John's at
yeah,
AGDQ 2019. He did a little Price is Right thing. That was
yeah,
really
see, that's a
fun.
great idea. I thought that
Hmm.
was so cool to hear. And like that's the kind of thing where it's, I would totally do that at a GDQ because most of you're there for 8 days or whatever. You've got so much time to do whatever you want.
Hmm.
So you could, as long as if there's more stuff to do to fill the time, I was like, that's great for me. Really happy with that.
But yeah, I mean, your panel sounds like it was a good topic, good cast. Feels like it should have been longer than an hour though. Feels like there's so much to talk about.
Oh yeah, I can't remember if it was a little longer than that, if we had like an hour and a half or two. I think it was only an hour, but it went like I was very happy with how it ended up going. And I mean, honestly, I don't know. I know they're doing panels again at this coming up GDQ, so I'm
Oh, that's
curious to
cool.
see what they actually have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I've only been to the Big John panel, so. But
Oh yeah. No, I
I
went
need
to
to
a few
like look at the
others.
schedule. I'm sure there's more
Yeah.
interesting ones that I just haven't looked up.
Yeah, there was one I went to that my friend was in, and I think it was just like, how do you even get into speedrunning at all to begin with? Which I think is a good topic for a lot of the people. They had a pretty big audience of people there that are like, I guess for lack of a better word, stream monsters who are like, how do I do this? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you guys up there on the panel actually do speedrunning? And like, I totally wasn't the intended audience. I just went because my friend was on it, but it's like, no, this is actually something that people are interested in hearing about. And so it's stuff like that. I think there was some indie game ones that some of my other friends were doing, and it's again, it's like just a way for all these people who are like hyper passionate about this really specific topic to just even go further and just talk about all the stuff they think is really cool.
Yep. Yep. Panels are definitely very interesting. I'll have
Yeah,
to
and I mean,
check it
people
out
care
more.
for sure. Oh yeah, honestly, I think they all might actually be on YouTube somewhere. Like I think
Oh,
mine
cool.
might be on YouTube somewhere on
I
the
didn't know if
GDQ
they
channel.
recorded those or not because it's
I
separate from
believe
the
they
event.
did. I believe they did.
Well, that's good.
So there's somewhere, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll look around for them, I guess.
yeah, I mean it's a good watch for sure. Just like all the good GDQ runs, and then there's a few good panels.
Hmm. Any other GDQ stories?
Any other GDQ story? Well, I don't know about how many that are stream appropriate, but
Oh, I see. Well,
no, I mean, not really specifically, honestly. All the GDQ stories, honestly, really, and this is it. All the GDQ stories I have are like personally significant to me and
okay,
like
I see.
have like no actual anything. Like, oh, this is cool. Like I got to, go out and do X, Y, and Z with, Aaron and X Paco and all my other friends and like all these things I didn't get to do in the past. And like that's a lot of it is like just personally significant to me in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And I think that that's really just the good part and why I just keep going to GDQs. And
Yep.
why I get like they were filming that running with speed documentary at SGDQ, I think 19, and I was just like wandering around at 3 in the morning, and I ended up running into the camera crew,
Hmm.
and they just filmed like basically me talking about this for like 10 or 15 minutes. It's how stuff like that just ends up happening. Or and and I mean, I've had just maybe not GDQ specific, but I've had some less crazy things happen since starting on Twitch at all. Like I had somebody had been speedrunning SMW for a couple years at this point. So it's like 2016, I think, and it's been 2 or 3 years. And there was a new runner in the community who had been running for like 6 months or a year or something at that point and watched my stream. And I get a whisper for them one day, like, hey, this might sound weird, but are you Truman from X, Y, and Z town?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah. And it turns out that this person who's been in the community for a few months was like my best friend in middle school growing up. Like
What?
literally my best friend. And they just randomly, years later, 10 years later, hope it happened to get into SFW speedrunning at the same time I did. And just stuff like that. Like you never believe what ends up happening. And just the most ridiculous series of coincidences you could possibly run into.
Yeah. I remember it was back towards I started. I don't think I hadn't even been around for 2 years yet, but I think it was Bismuth made a video on like the 80% speed run, and I was in it. I had like the 84IL world record at the time, so I was in it. And I got a text message from an old friend that I hadn't talked to in years saying like, "Hey, this was your username, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And yeah, it was someone that
that's
literally lives 2 doors down from me right now.
that's hilarious.
It's like,
And
yep,
that's
we
that's
would
the kind of
play
I've had
Mario
that happen
3
too
on
with people.
WBC. Like he knew. He was
That's
interested in it. So yeah,
so crazy.
small
I've had
world.
people, yeah, I mean, I've had people like that. I think really the weirder stuff is when I'll have people say stuff and it's like somebody I'm friends with. Like Panga's a big one because he's just so big in Mario Maker.
Mm-hmm.
Is like I'll be talking to some random coworker who honestly like isn't even into like video games at all for the most part, like just super casually. And it'd be like, hey, I was watching like I know you're into video games. Like I was watching this super cool Mario Maker thing with this dude, Panga. It's like, wow, this is so weird hearing about like people I know as if they're like celebrities.
Yeah.
It's like it's so crazy. And it's like that is like this just makes me want to text all these people every time it happens to be like, listen, man, you're famous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, you're
Sometimes
crazy.
do that too because I know a ton of people that sometimes get brought up casual conversation. Something I'll do for
Yeah.
fun sometimes is if they mention someone, I'll like say, yeah, I'm this many degrees of separation from them. It's usually like two max, but it's like, oh yeah, that person, they're friends with my friend. Like,
Yeah.
or
That'd be a
very
fun
rarely
thing
I'll
to
be
do.
like, I straight up know them very well. Like, I think my dad was in a work meeting call and somehow I think he works with like some younger people that are on the team. And he told me this recently that they were talking about someone and they one of them knew who Cosmic was. He's like one of my best
Uh
friends. So I'm just like, oh yeah, that's
well
I know
yeah, love
him.
Cosmic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a fun thing to do is like six degrees of GDQ separation. That's a good
I feel
GDQ
like
thing.
everyone would be like 2 degrees of separation max though. Like speedrunning's so tight knit, like everyone knows each other. I think I almost know everyone who, has at least some sort of a following. It's hard when so many people don't go to events and maybe have one average viewer.
Yeah, I
So,
mean
but
that's
other than
always
that,
something that's funny to think about, or not like funny, but it's like just hard to even like grasp is that like
mhm.
99% of Twitch streams have 1 or 0 viewers or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
Like, and there's just so many people that you wouldn't meet if it weren't for these events or stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely helps on the connection side of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I've almost kind of had like the reverse thing where I the reverse thing of like just randomly seeing, of randomly somebody else coming to you and saying that they knew somebody was like, I way back when I started and had 1 or 0 viewers, I had, like 2 or 3 people that would show up every now and then for my first like few months of streaming. And I like at the GDQ in Florida, right before COVID started, and somebody came up to me who I did not recognize at all. And he was like, dude, I'm Illumina. I'm one of your first viewers ever. It's like, oh my God, like no shot. And it's like, dude, you've been watching me for 10 years, 7 years. It's like, just somebody just out of the blue who you just didn't see for forever will like come up to you and be like, "No, wait, this is me. I'm here in person finally."
Hmm.
And those are just great whenever that happens.
Yeah. I've never had something like that, but
That was
I haven't
that was
heard too many
definitely a rare
stories like
one,
that.
but that was
Yeah.
like surreal. Like you were literally one of my first three viewers when, when Twitch was tiny and I had nothing going on and I was streaming on my laptop with my laptop mic and laptop camera and playing
There they are.
SMW on a wireless Xbox controller.
Mm-hmm. Just there they are.
Just there, they're real people.
Yep.
And he runs Minecraft. He's run Minecraft at GDQs a few times, so he
I've heard
really
the
picked
name,
up
yeah.
speedrunning. Yeah.
It wow. Yeah, it's funny how like basic everyone starts off, and a lot of speedrunners just grow into at least like having a name for themselves in the community they are in.
Yeah, for sure. You That's like I think that is really probably the most common thing, and that's great. I mean, and it is kind of like a way that a lot of these communities, I guess it shows that they're tight knit, but it's also kind of like how they stay tight knit is like you've got like a whole community of people and like some inside, whether it be like someone that everybody knows is like, the strat grinder or like the, god gamer or whatever it is, or if it's just inside jokes with the community, like it keeps things kind of fresh and going.
Yeah, there's plenty of
And
those.
yeah, there's always plenty of those. We had billions and billions. But you really develop your own like whole little corner of the internet, and hopefully, and it has for us, like people just keep coming in and out to keep it fresh. And there are slow times and there are much faster times, but you just kind of do stuff like that and just keep going. And I mean, the old like classic is, you start a new game and you look at the leaderboard and see whoever has world record and go look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, yeah, this guy I gotta check out, or like this is where I need to be looking.
Definitely. Yeah. Wow. Running out of topics.
Trying to think. Yeah, no. That's all been good. I mean, other marathons again besides GDQ have been great.
Yeah.
And what I mean, swapping. So I guess we were talked a lot about, older and like the SFW speedrunning and stuff I did, but switching like nowadays to where the most speedrunning I've done has been Minecraft has been a complete like 180 on how it is to speedrun a platformer,
Oh,
especially
that
one
game's
like
all
SMW.
RNG and 3D mouse.
Yeah,
Ugh. I can't imagine what that's like.
yeah, so the 3D was already like just nuts when I switched and like did some SM64 runs. It's like I don't get this, and this is scary and a new dimension and all that. And then you go to Minecraft where it's like, yeah, what you're talking about. It's so random, and that's honestly why I've been having fun with it so much is because every run is different. Whereas if I just play SMW, I'm playing the first three levels in World 1 8,000 times in a row until I get a good run. In
Yep.
Minecraft, it's like the beginning of every run is different. Like maybe I'll get better luck here and like do this faster, or maybe I'll have terrible luck at the beginning and just have to like quickly come up with what I need to do and like go find resources somewhere. And then just every step of the run after that is just even more branching RNG in like that same way. Like it's like way more of a adaptation challenge than like a memorization challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been super like memorization. Like I have, backup strats and whatever for SMW, but I'm way more of like a just, push the buttons and do it kind of guy. And for Minecraft, it's like you can't just do that. And
No.
it wouldn't even like help you really. Like if you tried to do a bunch of things the same way, you would just be really suboptimal and not like working at all.
Yeah, I'm someone who like very much relies on muscle memory and knowing the inputs. So something like that, I can't. I mean, it sounds like it'd be cool to try. I guess I don't know if it's for me personally, but it's just such a different ballpark. At least from what I'm used
Yeah,
to, it's like I can't imagine.
No, it's ridiculous, and I mean, it's just so different also, like, I don't know if you've ever branched out into any, like, just totally not Mario, not retro games at all for speedrunning, just
Not really.
doing something this different is, like, a super good break, and, like, I definitely have seen plenty of other people do a similar thing where it's like, their main game is Mario Odyssey, and then they will speedrun, like, VVVVV or some, like,
Mhm.
2D retro indie game. And it's like you're so tired of your main game, you have to go as far away as possible from whatever your main game is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just I don't know, I've never branched off into something that I'm not, like, used to, at least. I don't know what that's really like. I don't know if I'm, like, too scared or I just like the familiarity of certain things, but usually what I'm drawn to is stuff I played a lot as a kid.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's totally understandable, and I mean, I'm as much as I'm saying I'm like a SMW one trick for forever, and, like, that's how I'm always gonna be known, I'm sure, unless I had, like, another 10 years of some other game, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, you
I
got
don't know,
plenty
do
of
you ever
time,
try
so
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever try, like, streaming or at least, doing anything casual? Like, do you ever just blind play through and, like, you just feel like, I can't look at 1-1 another time. I need to but I wanna stream, like, and do something casual?
I've wanted to because usually when I burn out super easily nowadays, which sucks, but um I'll just not stream at all instead because I don't know. I just feel like I can't stream anything that isn't that, but I'd like to. I mean, I really
Yeah.
want to get into casual stuff because there's so many games on like my backlog that I just need to play and have, and especially a lot of retro stuff. Like there's all of the heavy hitter retro games you can think of that aren't Mario I probably never played before,
Oh, I
and I
was just
need
I
to
was
fix that.
just going through this with a friend. I'm exactly the same. I was, like, listing I think it was just Super Nintendo games only, but I was
Mhm.
listing all of them, and it's like, God, I have a massive backlog, and then I have all the games, like, I bought on Steam that I haven't played yet,
Mhm.
which is just a whole other thing.
Like I've never played a
But
Zelda game. I've never really played a Metroid game. I haven't even played Yoshi's Island.
ooh,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Mhm.
I had never played it. Yeah, well, I had never played a Zelda game until I hit one of these times on stream where I was like super burnt out and never wanted to touch Mario ever again. And I played Link to the Past. And then like 3 years later, I played Ocarina of Time. And probably, actually, we're getting up to probably about 3 years since then. So maybe I'll play Majora's Mask soon. And they were all enjoyable, but sometimes you really do need like that excuse of I'm so burnt out and I don't want to do anything else, but I do want to stream
Mhm.
to kind of make it happen. And like I played Super Metroid for, one of these times. That's the first Metroid I'd ever played. But then like on the other side, I recently recently especially like back over the past few years it's been like especially when grinding for partner it'd be like I have to stream even if I don't want to stream I have to
Mhm.
stream or like even if I don't have to stream like I said I was going to stream so I like need to do it and definitely over the last like 2 or 3 years, it's been like I'm only gonna stream if I want to and if I feel like it, and that's really it. And I feel like it's made streaming a lot more fun and a lot better in general. Like if I'm only streaming when I'm having a good time and want to be there, which is, like so obvious, but it's hard to do, especially and I mean, I don't know how anybody that's like full time does it
Hmm.
because they have all the days where they don't want to stream either. It's like,
But
how
they
do
have
you
to. Mhm.
yeah, how do you keep doing it? Like it's I'm very impressed by anybody that keeps that going.
Yep.
It's just a weird I mean, I've had so many mentality shifts in streaming
Mhm.
over the entire time.
Yeah.
First it was like I just want to try this because I have nothing else to do and like this seems like a cool hobby. And then it's like, okay, actually I want to just be like a grinder and get a bunch of good times in SMW and get world record and whatever. And then it was like, okay, actually now I want to get like Twitch partner. And then after that, it's like, okay, I got Twitch partner. Now I still want to stream, but I want to play whatever I want to play and nothing else. And then it was like, okay, nah. We're at nowadays where it's like I only want to stream if I want to stream, and I only want to stream things that people want to watch.
Mhm.
Which I always underestimate what people will actually want to watch. But it's like, I'll have some random game and it'll be like nobody wants to see me playing that, so I'm just gonna play it offline.
Yeah.
And it definitely results in less streams, but I think the ones that I do are better. And I don't know, it's just like a totally different shift over the years. And if I didn't shift like that, I don't know how I would like still be streaming or anything if I was still just sitting here grinding SMW. I don't know how that would have been possible. How what I could have done over the years to make that still be possible.
Well, what's nice about hitting partners, like you don't have to force yourself to strive for anything now. You can literally just play whatever. You have partner, you won't lose it. So it's like,
Yeah, and that
there you
that's
go.
great, and that was like the huge benefit. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, I still was streaming a decent amount like for a year after I got partnered, but it was just like random stuff, and I really wasn't doing what I was the year leading up to partner, which was just putting in a ton of effort into like actually streaming and like being a streamer rather than somebody that just like goes live on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
which is it was like the main difference at the time, I think. That's the only time I really did that and it like paid off. Uh, but then if you don't do that, like, I don't know. You're just like, you get to where, and I did not want to like keep doing that by any means. It's not like I'm regretting this now and being like, I wish I just put more effort into the stream. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I never had any intention of ever doing that, but it does change things and it really changes, I guess, even the kind of viewers you get. Like, you're down, like, if you stream all the time and like be a streamer, you get like, I guess, more viewers and more varied viewers. And then whereas if you just do like what I'm doing now, you get like way more longtime viewers, and but you kind of lose like the newer viewers,
Mm-hmm.
uh because you're not trying to attract the newer viewers like in the way where I was trying to grow the channel to get partner, and how most people try to grow their channels to get partner.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I always think the most important thing about streaming is to do it as long as you're enjoying it and doing it for fun. You should never have the mindset of like trying to, unless like that's what your passion is, I guess, but you should never like try to do it for the money and to see how many viewers you can get, especially if you're like not enjoying that process. But you
Yeah.
should always go in with the mindset of I'm doing this for fun. That's what's most important. Everything, if you grow off of that, then cool, but that's why I've always been pretty small channel, but I've always said if I did this because I wanted to like be a streamer, I would have stopped a year ago or like 4 years ago, I would have stopped within a year because that's just not how it works.
No. Yeah, and that's why I think most of the people doing it full time now are the people that are able to do that and like
Mm-hmm.
actually have fun with it.
Definitely.
Uh because otherwise, yeah, I don't know how you could like go into streaming with the idea that you wanted to be like a full-time streamer, because that would just be so hard and like so demotivating when you had one viewer for 3 months straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, like I'm not having fun. Like, I want to do this for a job. It's like that would never work ever.
Yep. Is that all your badges behind you?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
There's
just
there's a
noticed
bunch of
them.
GDQ badges, my Calithon badge, I think my PAX East badge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm maybe missing a badge, but that's all the ones I think I have for GDQs behind me.
Yeah, all of mine
Uh
are hanging by a hook just over off camera. So
nice.
I
Yeah,
was
no,
just
I
like,
like
oh,
to
I
keep them
noticed
there.
those.
Yeah, I like to keep those behind me.
Hmm.
And got my little like SMW merch back there and stuff. But no, yeah, I will go through every now and then, and like some of the badges I had people sign, and some of them have stickers from all the different stuff people brings to events. So it's kind of just good to look back and reminisce.
Definitely. Um, so what speedruns do you like to watch that you haven't tried yourself?
So the big one in general, well, I think the big ones in general are like 100% of games that I do play, because
Hmm.
like I'm not very a completionist. So like
Other people will complete it for
SM64
you.
120 star, SMS 120 star or
Mm.
120 shine. Those SMS 120 shine is like historically probably been one of my most watched speedruns, like just in general out of the total amount of time. And then like Majora's Mask, I've watched so many hours of. Not as much recently, but back when I started, it's like I don't know anything about Zelda or anything, and I've never seen this game before. I watched so many hours of Majora's Mask any percent runs and 100%. And those kinds of games, really, where I guess I don't know anything about them, are are more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then nowadays, I don't watch too much speed runs. I watch like a lot of, I'd say a lot of competitive games moreover. But for speed running, yeah, it's like all the ones that are super good speed runs and that I just don't have the time to play or never played. Like I've been watching, and I guess I've always been watching a lot of like Mega Man X, Mega Man X2, with like just any percent and 100% for those. Just all like the classic games. All the ones in like the backlog we were talking about that I haven't
Mm-hmm.
actually played but have watched hundreds of hours of speedruns of are always fun, and like those are just always a good watch. Like Mega Man X is never gonna not be entertaining. And same with like OOT or MM or 120 Shines. Like I'll just watch hours and hours of those forever.
I guess they do never get old. Something about them.
Yeah, no, it's great. And like yeah, Super Metroid as well. I watch way less, but that's like a GDQ staple. Like you
Mm-hmm.
gotta watch the GDQ SM race.
Yeah, I remember the big impossible ROM hack finale at HDQ 2020 before COVID happened.
Oh yeah, right. Didn't who ran that? Oats.
Oats, yeah.
Yeah, that was hey, yeah, that's a ROM hack scene that could use some more ROM hacks for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully
Doesn't
like
seem
the
like there's a
tools
lot of
for
them.
all these games, and same with SMS actually, like hopefully the tools for all these games get improved and improved until you actually can do it. Like SM64 has been having ROM hacks for so long, but like you said, most of them I don't think work on console,
Yeah.
or at least didn't.
Yeah, there's something about the way the emulator works, the way the console works that just makes it incompatible. Like the hardware of the Nintendo 64 just can't handle it usually.
Yeah, that's weird. Like for nowadays for SMW hacks, most of them I think work on most flash carts, but SD2 SNES was always like that's what you need to play all the hacks, because that's the one with like Super FX support and all the
Mm-hmm.
like the little hardwares and chip support that you need. And that's what I've got now. But like back in the day, that's like really what you needed to make sure it would work.
I got mine right here.
Nice.
It's a cool purple color, very custom that they don't really make anymore. They like I got mine from Stone Age Gamer, but they like ruined their custom support for it. You have to like buy preset builds almost, and so
Uh,
if I wanted to like get the Pro for some reason, I couldn't give it the cool purple design I gave it here that fits so well with the console.
yeah, I've
So I
got
almost don't
mine.
want to upgrade just because of that because I love the way this looks.
Yeah, no, it is cool. And I've got my like little generic like it just looks like a Super Famicom cart, but I've got that
Mm-hmm.
right here too. And it's so good. Like I'll tell people I just randomly work with like who have who are older and actually like have an N64 or Super Nintendo from when they were kids, and still play games, like get a flash cart. I've turned on like so many coworkers just to like get a flash cart and you'll play every Super Nintendo game ever or every
Mm-hmm.
N64 game ever, and you could just do it on like an SD card, and it's so easy.
Yeah, I like playing on original hardware, like console wise, but I'm not a game collector by any means. So I love
No,
having the conveniency and availability of just having a flash card and being able to boot whatever game I want whenever.
no, I love
That's what I
it. It's
like. Yeah.
so good.
Mm-hmm. Uh, like I just keep wanting new consoles, but then I'm like, but I gotta get the flash card, and usually they're pretty expensive. But I mean, it is worth it to just have that entire library at your accessibility.
I think it is for sure. And yeah, new consoles is like it's always like I'll get them and never use them. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I need to never buy a console ever again because I just keep using my Super Nintendo or just computer at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like I've got a PS5 that I'd never use. It's
Hmm.
like
I have a Series S that I never use.
yeah, it's
Glad
I
I got
mean
the
it's like
cheaper one.
yeah, it's like okay. I mean, I do use it every now and then, but God, it's like I need to use this more. And then I had like the Wii U, which I never used over the entire course of its lifespan because it never had any games. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'll just get rid of this.
Yeah, I bought one and I sold it to a friend for like $50 because I'm like, I just don't
I
need this.
Yeah, I gave away my Wii U, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess technically I gave away my Wii, but I did use that a lot. I used the Wii like so that was like just having the GameCube backwards compatibility. That's like the best console ever.
Yeah, I got my Wii. I mean, that's what I grew up with. I went from NES to Wii. Quite a big step up, but
Yeah, no, for sure. I went pretty linearly. I went from like GameCube to Wii to
mhm.
eventually Wii U, but I went from like GameCube to Wii to Xbox 360.
Hmm. Yeah, I went from Wii to Xbox 360 as well because I was always a Nintendo kid, but there's like no way to do multiplayer very well that like Xbox could do, and all my friends had an Xbox, so I ended up getting those consoles later.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I found too. Was like I need an Xbox to play with friends, and then like everyone who had friends with like a PlayStation got a PlayStation to play with friends, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like whatever the most people have is what you get,
Exactly. Yeah.
and that's just how it always works out.
Like people always like fight which console's better. I just picked up the one that my friends had. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't care, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And if it switches, I'll get the other one. Next generation or whatever, however long.
Yep.
And that's just always how it's like worked out.
But yeah, I am building my collection though. As far as consoles go, again, I still don't care about the games. That's what the flashcards are for, but I do love having all the different hardware from throughout the years and being able to just play any game on real hardware. It's always
Yeah,
fun.
I do like that too. Yeah. I just stopped. Yeah, like I get rid of my Wii and my Wii U because it's like I just don't use it that much anymore. But I like having my N64 and Super Nintendo still for sure. Whenever I want to play like an SMW hack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ROM hack scene is so good for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I need to play more SMW hacks. Those are some of my favorite things. I used to play a bunch of them, but before I had flashcards, but I just
Oh yeah, that'd
stopped.
be tough.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I stopped because it got irritating, but now that I have one, I just still haven't gotten back to it. Someday. There's so
someday.
many good
Yeah,
ones.
and there's a lot of easier ones now than there were back in the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
for anybody that's just getting into them. I mean, before it was like you take what you get and that's it. Like whatever people want to make is all you got, and they're all hard because it's just like, oh, I'm just trying to make like some stupid hard hack, or it's like just limited by the time too. So you end up with like just a bunch of really hard hacks, and all the ones nowadays, like there's a billion just beginner level, entry level Kaizo hacks that are super beginner friendly.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite hacks for SMW?
uh My favorite is probably Quickie World and Quickie World 2 as an extension, but Quickie
Mm-hmm.
World is fantastic. I mean, Valdio made that, and that's a beginner friendly hack. That's just easy, short and sweet. It's like I think the speed run's like 20 minutes, maybe less, actually probably less. And it's got good music. It's got like everything. It's got good graphics, good music. The levels flow pretty well. It's easy. And then harder, and I'm like so far behind the times on any hacks, so I'm sure there are good ones. But harder ones, I really liked Invictus a lot, that Juz Cook made. That's not beginner. That's intermediate, advanced at the time, I think, although people are way better now. Uh, that's really good. That one's longer, and that one has like a custom boss and everything, and it's like a real solid hack. And then Grand Poo World 2 was good. I played 1 as well, and I think 2 was better. And then Grand Poo World 3 is the one that everyone's waiting to come out, always,
Mm-hmm.
forever. As soon
Is
as that
Grand
comes out,
Poo World
maybe I'll
3 out
play it.
yet? No.
No,
No.
no. Yeah, that'll come out eventually, and I'll probably play it. 2 was fun. 2 was fun because like they had like a little puzzle in the game that everyone had to solve.
Like a little ARG or a little less complicated.
It was. I would say. I mean, that's around the right idea. Like
Mm,
you had to go into a bunch of different levels, and sometimes, yeah, I guess sometimes out of the game to
mm,
find these clues, and it was fun watching everyone try and like solve it at the time.
that's cool.
And eventually they got it, and that unlocks like the super actual final boss, and you can beat the game. Which was, I
Nice.
think, at the time totally like new for ROM hacks, but it was a cool thing, and I hope they do it again for 3, and I'm sure he will.
Yeah, Barb makes those, right?
Yeah, Bar makes those.
Mm,
He's great
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely look into more of the realm hacking scene. They're
for
really
sure.
good. I just don't know about the Kaizo ones because my skill level ain't there, and I don't know if I want it to be there. But
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely, I'd recommend Quickie World for sure. That's as beginner as it gets, really. For and it's like still while being a Kaizo hack.
I see, like a your introduction to it.
Yeah, there's actually also Learn to Kaizo, but I don't remember. I think I already knew Kaizo, so I'm not sure I ever played that by the time that came out.
Fair enough.
Learn to Kaizo.
Well,
That one's good too.
any topics we didn't talk about that you want to? I can't.
Nah, I think we hit everything, man. I just enjoyed talking about my small story and GDQ stuff. And yeah, I mean it's been a lot of SMW, a lot of GDQs, and that's most of my story.
All
Still
right.
nowadays playing Minecraft, but I'll be back for whatever SMW whenever SMW feels like it's time again. Whenever it
Once you
feels like it's
start, you
time to do
can't
that.
stop. It's part of your
Yeah,
life
no, I
forever.
really can't. I
Mhm.
can't stop.
All right. Well, I'll leave. If anyone wants to ask questions, now's the time, I guess, and I'll just leave it by asking what your future plans are.
Sure.
As I
Yeah.
message someone.
No, yeah, sure. My future plans are keep up the Minecraft speedrunning. Uh Definitely just keep going with that. I think I want to get like a sub 20, maybe sub 25 and any percent, and just have a good time with that. Beyond that, I have, like I said, a massive backlog of casual games. I'm sure I'll stream at least some of them, and I've been working my way through Omori on stream a little bit, which I've been enjoying, uh, which is kind of reminding me of Earthbound, but it's a pretty good RPG, and just keep up more of that. Definitely, busy in life as well a lot, so I just kind of sneak in streams when I can, and but it's been a lot of fun recently. Like I said, it's Minecraft speedrunning. You never really know what you're gonna get, so I just kind of enjoy the randomness.
Yeah. It's nice that it's almost been a decade for you and you're still doing it.
Yeah,
That's
so decade in August, and yeah, it's crazy.
Here's to the next decade, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where I am 10 years from now.
I know people that are still doing it in their mid 40s, so
Yeah, no, yeah, me too for sure.
once you start speedrunning, like that's your life forever now. Deal
Yep,
with it.
never gonna leave. Maybe I'll get 96 world record one of these years,
Hmm.
one of these decades.
The Japanese folk are making it hard,
Yeah, I
so
mean, at this point, there's no way. At this point, it's such a good time.
it's
Between what Louis and Maiba and Usui have done to the game.
what's it? It's almost at 120 now, right?
Yeah, it's like I think it's a 121.17, which is unthinkable
I remember
from
when
back when I was actually
121
playing
was
the
like,
game.
what the fuck?
Yeah, 122 was like the huge milestone when I was really playing, and it was like, okay, no way does anyone ever get a 121, and then now it's like a really low 121.
hmm
I don't know if 120 is possible with what we know currently. I don't really watch a ton of RTAs, but I think we're getting close to the sum of best at this point until something
Really,
else
for
happens.
a category that long, that's crazy. I guess it makes more sense when it's a lot of cape and there's really no
Yeah.
RNG except for the Yoshis. I assume you just have to get the clips first try or reset try again, which sucks
Yeah,
because
you
that's
could
like
do
40
it.
minutes
You
in,
could
right?
do it with like 1 second try clip, one or two, but you'd need to like
Yeah,
play perfectly otherwise.
crazy.
Yeah, so it's manageable, but no, the world record right now is crazy good.
Yeah. I'll have to give it a watch again.
It's great. Like just if you just watch one thing, just watch like Special World. It's 5 minutes long, and pretty much every level has a trick in it.
Yeah, Special World is quite
Exactly.
insane. I've done a little bit of 11 exits, so I know at least like the secret exit strats, but you have to do both there, so I guess I don't know
Yeah,
how
well, and
different
that's
the other
Star
ones
World. You
are.
got to go to Special World.
Oh, yeah, and that too.
Yeah. No, that's Star World's generally Star World's a lot of cape, but then Special World, like in 96 at least, there's some crazy glitch in almost every level.
Mm. And those are just like those levels were just made to be difficult.
Yep, those are the hard ones for sure. Uh,
Yeah, it's a fun game. I
oh
definitely
yeah.
remember playing plenty of Mario World on Wii VC, I believe, because I didn't have a SNES. So definitely a good game.
Oh
Everyone
yeah,
should
for
play it.
sure.
And eventually I'll run it more uh I don't know, I'll run it like properly. I have like an
I
1106 glitchless 11, but I mean Seth Bling was like teaching me zero exit. I feel like 96 and No Star World would be fun to learn eventually.
I'd
Especially hearing
learn
there's
all
no RNG.
castles.
That sounds great for me.
There's really
So,
not. And I'd learn all castles over No Star World, but No Star World's fine as a intro category.
mm. Why is there like no Star World and then all castles? Is it like is there a significant change in the route?
Yeah, like medium significant. Like I'm trying to think. Like no Star World doesn't do Castle 3 or 7.
Mm,
Uh and you do like in No Star World you do the really easy garbage like nothing to think about half of World 3.
hmm
And then in Al Castles, you do like the actual challenging half of World 3 that has all the tricks and Yoshi Clip and Yoshi Wings and movement. So it is pretty significant for like 35-minute run or whatever. Like, I don't know, a third of it's different, maybe more.
I don't know. The easy stuff sounds good to me, so maybe no Star Worlds for me.
It
But
is until you run it 10,000 times in a row and you're like, wait, this is just five flyovers in a row, and
yeah,
it's so five flyovers in an auto scroller.
I don't know if I'll get to that point.
Yeah.
I'll probably
But
get
you do
burned
get
out
to
of it
skip the auto
before.
scroller in all castles, which is nice.
Mm. Well, that's cool. So there's an auto
Yeah.
scroller. You have to play no Star World.
Yeah, you have to
Mm.
do Butterbridge 1 in No Star World, which is the
Yeah.
worst level in the game. Just
I
because
see.
it's boring. It's so boring.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
sometimes you need a break. That's like
yeah, it's true.
exactly halfway through, right?
Pretty much.
Because that's
Little
like in the
less
World
maybe,
4
but it's
area.
about halfway.
Yeah. Well, sounds good. I
Yeah,
guess we can
no.
wrap it up here. I think we've
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me, man.
exhausted our discussion, so no questions. So, well, thanks for being
Yeah.
on. This was a fun
Yeah.
talk.
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed it for sure. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone.
Yep.
Be sure to, if you missed it, watch on YouTube, and if you're watching on YouTube, watch on Twitch. I guess that's how self promotion works.
Yes.
All right.
Uh,
Well,
you know,
yep. Thanks
yeah,
again,
take care, man.
everyone. Take care. Have a good Easter Sunday. See ya.
Yeah, likewise. See ya.